This bipolar host has changed this list idea 14 times this week, and I finally settled on it. This was going to be lead actresses. Oscars got it wrong. It was going to be worst superhero movies, and then finally settled on Overrated because I got 7 lists, and there was like 31 of 40 that were the same. So that'd be a very boring episode. So I'd rather let's bring out the hot takes. Let's get people fired up again this week because last week it paid off pretty well. And this is superheroes. We did superheroes again on this show. I let you define how the list works normally. So if you can sway it in a way that makes sense, it may affect your grade, kind of like Kirk one week never saw Dances with Wolves, but he swears that Goodfellas is better. He may be wrong, but he admitted it, so it affected his grade. It can affect your grade here tonight. This list is going to be very controversial, especially because this topic is very beloved in this community, so I'm excited to see people get pissed off at each other. First on the panel, my producer, the guy that runs all my graphics, the guy I hate behind the scenes but love why he's helping on my show, Kaleb Koho. You actually won last time you were on. Do you feel like you'll continue that streak, or do you feel like you'll be back in the basement?
I have a reservation with the basement, so I think I'm ready to lose tonight.
I don't even want to know what reservation in the basement you have. But anyways, we're going to go over to Thomas Scully. Thomas Scully, best nickname in the fan community, the Warhawk. I reached out to you personally on this because you are a fantastic geek player, so I'd like to see your take on this, Siegel. Do you think on your first episode, are you going to have the best list, or are you going to have the worst list?
Honestly, it could go either way. When we talk about I think when we talk about overrated, underrated, there are a lot of hot takes, and it could go a whole bunch of different ways. So I honestly don't know how this is gonna work out. I could be like, oh yes, I agree with everything he says, or it's gonna be, this person fucking sucks. He can go eat a chalkboard. His picks are so bad. So I think it's gonna go either way. But I do have confidence that I'm gonna get some support on my picks. Others, I know I'm gonna get absolutely wrecked on.
Speaking of people that absolutely suck, Brian Leto. Brian, you were on last week's episode.
Don't do it like that.
You were on last week's episode. You didn't finish last. I think you finished in the top half. So do you feel like you'll carry your success in this one? I kind of added you last minute because you're like, well, if I knew the topic changed, and
I was mainly just complaining because that's what I do. And you said, "Hey, do you want to be on?" Then, so I'm like, "Okay, I can throw together a list." And I mean, Thomas is hoping to get whacked on. I'm hoping to get whacked off. More fun, just saying. Sorry, I had to go there.
I'm scared.
But yeah, I mean, like I said last week, overrated is just a topic that's just made for controversy and arguments because you're going against the grain by the very definition. So I know you like that because it gets a heated argument. So here I am to give you the hot.
Yeah, I like that you and Malcolm both commented the same thing that would normally show up on a Rankum post, but showed up on your list. So it's funny for me. Next, Douglas Castle. I think I just said, hey, congratulations, you're on the episode.
Give me your damn list. Where's your list, Doug? I know. I'm excited to be here. It's always a good time coming back to Your List Sucks and getting told that my list sucks. So it's always a good time.
And the person that will probably burn down this entire place, not just by nickname, but by list alone. Jay, you're not talking out of a cooler this time, which I like you better when you're in the cooler, but you're in your room. So do you feel like you're going to have a terrible list or a great list? Because last episode you were on, Kaleb twisted the system and won best list, which you think
Kaleb
you rightfully deserve.
The system. He didn't game the system. He just knows you, and that's why he won. So fuck him. He can get a taint punch. Brian is on probably the best episode that he could be on because you do have Dr. Donkey Daddy Doug, who runs a late night talk show about sex. So if anybody's gonna whack him off, it'll probably be him.
This is a family program, Jay Birds.
Burn it all, Jay.
Oh
Burn
yeah,
it all.
that's. See, I'm already starting. No, my list is definitely gonna stir the S pot, but I'm here to see reactions. Because I know somebody's got something to say about at least like 8 of my list. I can't wait. This is fun. Thanks for having me back. I know it's probably my last time.
Thank gosh, only 3 people are watching, and half of them are probably on this call. Anyways, okay, so
Fucking Andrew James Barr, I love
is
you,
on
bro.
fire tonight.
I love Andrew James.
all right.
Right now.
So basically, how the show works, like it's worked in the past weeks. This is 5-person panel. This is probably honestly the last time I will ever do this panel, but we'll see. Everybody creates their top 10 list. The list gets combined at the end. I give grades. I ridicule the entire time. I have no hand in this. I do not get to judge people, like put my own opinion out there. I don't get to add anything to it besides my opinion on it. So we're going to start off with the producer extraordinaire behind the scenes, Kaleb Koho, or as I like to call him, Bitch Boy. Give us your 10, 9, 8.
My number 10 is controversial, even a little bit to myself. It's Logan. My number 9 is Captain Marvel. My number 8 is Aquaman.
Okay,
No,
I'm interested.
Yikes.
Anybody else have any of those?
Someone yikes. 2 said yikes. You did?
I got Aquaman, yikes.
Okay. And then I will save that.
Anybody else have? Does anybody have Logan or Captain Marvel? Okay, talk about Logan.
Okay. Logan's good. I don't think it's Oscar good. It's fine. But then again, I don't think any X-Men movies are Oscar level good. Logan just happens to be the best of them. And I got a lot more love that I just didn't quite understand. Good, just not great. Captain Marvel, I didn't love it, and I haven't loved it. I don't see the love for it. I guess I think it's a lot of 90s nostalgia that I just don't have. I think that's partly due to the fact that I'm a fetus. But a part of it also is that I just think the movie itself is not great. The story falls apart. And Brie Larson is kind of wooden in the movie. I think she's better as Captain Marvel in Endgame. So the whole movie itself, there's nothing really for me in that one. So.
Okay, this is your 10, 9, 8. Shut up. You know how the world works. Logan's a dumbass choice. I think Logan is a fantastic movie. It may not be your comic book movie, but it's a Western with freaking Wolverine, and I think it's badass. I agree there is one huge slow part of this movie that almost puts me to sleep every time it shows up. It's when they get to Eden. Can't stand it. It literally is the worst part of that entire movie. But the overall movie, the arc, the character development, it's the best in any X-Men movie. You just hate it because you hate good things. Next one, I'm going to actually, he's not allowed to say anything, but he's allowed to put it in the chat, and I will use his words exactly. Captain Marvel is barely rated, let alone overrated. I will 100% agree with you. It made $1 billion, but it was a part of the MCU. It was a part of the MCU cog that kept running. I don't think anybody even talks about it in the top 10 range of MCU. I think it is in the bottom. I think it's in the bottom half. It's fine, but I wouldn't say completely overrated.
And we got to save this one because Brian punted it, or not punted it.
Yes. And we'll get to that in a second. Call me Ocean Master. Okay, we're gonna go to Thomas. We're gonna go to Thomas Scully. 10, 9, 8, please.
Okay, so my 10 was Dark Knight Rises. My number 9 is Hellboy. And my number 8 is Batman 66.
Okay. No one else had those, I don't think. So start at your 10, move up slowly.
So Dark Knight Rises, it comes after 2 phenomenal films. People say that Bane is this really good shadowy villain. He's not. He's just a big guy with muscles who just seems brooding. The acting performances are much worse than they are in the previous 2 films, and it's just not a great movie in general.
Hey, typer, mute your mic if you're going to type so loud. You know who I'm talking to. Go to your number 9.
My number 9, Hellboy. It's just a really generic superhero film. There really is no plot outside of Ron Perlman. The performances are very one-dimensional. None of the characters outside of Hellboy and maybe Abe Sapien are memorable, and it's overshadowed by its sequel, Golden Army. And again, it's just not a great superhero film. And then with Batman 66, yes, I get that it's fun, it's campy, it has a lot of jokes, but it doesn't translate into today. It's not relatable in any way, shape, or form. Unlike some of the other Batman films, a lot of the jokes are really overrated. All the puns are really cringy. Outside of Adam West, again, all the acting performances, maybe Cesar Romero, but the rest of the acting performances, one-dimensional, and again, not a great superhero film.
Okay, so we'll go to your 10. I think The Dark Knight Rises has gotten more love recently. Some people are turning out that they actually like this movie. I don't like this movie very much. I agree that it comes off the first two, but that's why I think it's not overrated, because I think it was met with that punch in the face that it's not the first two. So that's one of the issues I have with it. But at 10, I don't care. It doesn't carry as much weight. It's better than Koho's 10. Go to his 9. Hellboy. I think this is rude and disrespectful. If you please go watch this one and then go watch the 2019 Hellboy, and you'll find out what is good Hellboy and what is bad Hellboy. I agree that the sequel is actually better than this one, but I actually really enjoy Hellboy a lot on this. So I have to strongly disagree that it's overrated. I think it's actually underrated. I don't think enough people talk about Hellboy in their big ass facts. Boom. All right. So, and we're going to go to your, this is not even rated. This is not even on the board. I think Batman 66 is literally known as a joke. I know there's a fan base of it, like the TV series, but overall, the entire, like, every time it's a fact that it's overrated, it's underrated, or not even rated, is because when they talk about Jokers, they list everyone and then they're like, oh shit, I forgot Cesar Romero, and then they bring them back up because they don't remember 66 because it's not Batman, it's super campy. So you may not like it. I just don't think it's rated, especially in this day and age. But that's fine. It's your 1098. Let's hope your list gets better than this. Brian, hot takes. Brian, I need to get mad at you, so hit me with your 1098.
Well, I can set up the hate from everybody, just so they know where to get ready for me. By letting them know that I had to take one off my list, he wouldn't let me put Joker on it because he wasn't a hero. Just saying that would.
Whoa!
So let me just prepare you all there.
Whoa!
Double that.
Yeah. So anyway, there's movies on my list that I hate. There's movies I'm ambivalent about, and there's actually movies on here that I like but think are overrated. My number 10 is one of those. That is Thor Ragnarok. I really enjoy Thor Ragnarok. I thought it was a fun movie. It might even be my favorite of the Thor movies, but there are people who praise this as like one of the best MCU movies. I think it goes a little too far into comedy, especially with Korg. I thought got annoying because they tried a little bit too hard with that character. So I like it, but overrated. Number 9, Batman Begins. Batman Begins was another one, which I thought was a good movie, but there are people that say it's one of the best Batman movies, and I mean,
yikes.
Oh, there's a yikes. Sorry, didn't hear that.
Sorry,
You're good.
I had a dog to take care of. Sorry.
Late? Okay, I didn't hear. And number 8, Chronicle. Anyone?
Yikes.
Okay.
You can throw your hands up all you want. It's a yikes.
Okay, we're gonna go 10. Thor Ragnarok. Overrated? I think it's the best Thor. I think it is the best Hulk, and I think that's properly rated. I get the jokes maybe too much. Oh, I agree. That's why I always bring him on, because he can take a punch. Thor Ragnarok. I like the music. I like the villains. I overall like the movie a lot. I can honestly see where you're at because people tout it as like a top 10 movie, and I think it's more in the mid range. So that's fair.
Bite me, Campbell.
So yeah. I don't know what he said. What did he say again?
Bias against Ragnarok because it lost him a match.
That's rude. Don't bring up Rand's losses. It's not a good time. Okay. So yeah, I don't hate the Ragnarok pick. I could hate it if it was higher, but 10 is probably reasonable.
That's why I had it at 10 because I do like the movie a lot.
Brian's not in no hot seat with me. He is with the other ones, but we can't talk about that yet. I'm going to go to – is Doug going to be back in time? I'm about to see a lot of Doug, like his booty. I'm about to see his booty. Doug, do you want to be cammed off?
Do not turn
Take
to
Doug
the
off the screen.
Dude.
Take Doug off the screen. Go to Jake. Take Doug off the screen.
Okay.
We're about to go
Bye.
to NC-17. We're about to go to NC-17. Jay, give us your
Multiplex
10.
After Dark.
All right. My 10, Blade. My 9, The Incredibles. And my 8, Wonder Woman.
Can you check with Jay's list real quick and make sure there was no yikes on Douglas's?
Let me just real quick switch over and no yikes.
Okay.
From a quick
So-
look, no yikes.
Go through your 10. 9, go ahead.
Blade. This is the thing. This is one of those Marvel movies that people kind of forget is a Marvel movie. But a lot of people really talk about it as it's like one of Wesley Snipes' better films. It's not. They tend to hype it up. I don't really have a lot to say about this one. I don't like Blade that much. But yeah, that's why it makes my list. Especially if we're talking about earlier comic book movies before the MCU was a thing. The Incredibles. I think The Incredibles gets. Now the show's brought to you by 2X's. The Incredibles, fantastic movie. I like this movie. I just think that it gets a little bit more love than it should. I do like the fact that it's basically the only Fantastic Four movie that actually works, but I don't think that the family dynamic truly works as well as it could. So, yeah. I skate uphill. Yeah, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. But that's fine. It's
skate uphill.
my opinion. And Wonder Woman. I've had this conversation with multiple people. I think Wonder Woman is overrated AF. And you can hate me all you want, but this is Captain America's story told from the perspective of a woman and in a DC film.
Okay. We'll go to your 10. Overrated? No. I just don't think people like talk they may talk in Wesley Snipes like filmography that's high, but the overall movie, if you watch it in 2019, it is the most dated looking thing in the history of the universe. I like Blade a lot. I literally
Blade 2 looks more dated than the first one.
You're not wrong with that one at all, but I still Blade is not overrated at all. But it's your 10. I'm not mad. Your number 9 is what? Oh, bullshit. Get off here. Just stop. That's just stupid.
The Incredibles.
I get it.
This movie's overrated, bro.
I get it that you may think it's overrated, but I honestly believe it is in the top 5 of Pixar. I believe it is in the top 5 of animated movies of the past, 20 years. I think
you're
it's
making my argument for me.
No. It's properly rated. It's properly rated. It's not. I think it may not connect with you, but I think Syndrome is one of the best villains. I think the family dynamic is epic in this movie. I believe the second one is way overhyped, honestly, because people thought that was great, and that movie was not great. It's fine, but it's nowhere near Incredibles 1. It doesn't even touch the surface of Incredibles. So yeah, I disagree with you 100% on that. And your number, yeah. Wonder Woman. I gotta agree with you. I have to agree with you 100%. I feel like it's very overrated as a movie. I believe this is a scene, and it's called the No Man's Land scene. If anybody, I've always said, that movie wasn't the greatest. Did you see that scene in No Man's Land? Yeah, but did I see the last act of that movie? Is garbage. The first act, okay. It's a fine movie. It gets more praise because it's one of the best films of the DC EU. And that's not a hard bar to match. So I'm with you, and I get it. I'll hear it. Sexist. You're awful. Women are in this. That's not the problem. I don't care that a woman stars in it. It just was a boring movie for me. Not a fan. And Tony, I couldn't hear that S on the beginning of your word, so I need you to repeat it. Go to Douglas, 1098.
Sorry, guys. All right. So my 10 is Watchmen.
Yikes.
My 9 is Avengers. And my 8 is Spider-Man.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Okay. So the only one I get to talk about is Avengers. Watchmen was a yikes. Watchmen was a yikes.
Right. Sorry.
Cool. The Avengers, it was the first come together of all the films. Everybody puts it up at this big pedestal. I think the movie is wonky at times. I watch it. I still enjoy this movie, but I still find problems within the movie. Actually, in
Okay,
later
Are you done with Avengers?
yeah, it's just I like this movie, but I find it wonky, and I think people put it too high up on a pedestal. That's why I think it's overrated.
Yeah. This is a tough one. I was strongly against everybody that puts this movie on a overrated list or a bad list and blah blah blah. I just rewatched it. It does lose a ton. It does lose a ton of steam. I'm honestly an Age of Ultron fan a little bit more than most people, just because I honestly don't think that story is as bad as what people say it is. I think they wanted that feeling when they all assembled the first time, but that's my opinion. I think this movie's fine, but like it drags. It really does. This movie drags way more than it should. Because especially it doesn't have great rewatch because when you watch it, you're just waiting for that end scene, but it's a lot to get to that end scene for me anymore. So, again, I will still laugh at the Tony and Thor and Cap and this mother knoweth you wear her drapes. I think that's still one of the best lines in the MCU, but it's a little overrated. I will agree with you. Not as overrated as a Civil War, but I don't think that made anybody's list, but I will gladly die on that hill. We'll go to... I think that's it. So we're going to sevens now, right? Okay. So you're going to go 7 one at a time, moving up slowly. We'll all get to yell at each other for now. This is where the fun happens. This is where the magic of the show happens. So give us your 7, Koho, you dumb piece of shit.
Time to make some enemies. Number 7 is Ant-Man. This movie is a piece of shit. I'm just going to come out and say it. This is a mess. This movie is a mess. It's directed by 17 different comedy directors, all with their own different fucking styles. Edgar Wright's all over this movie. Peyton Reed's already all over this movie. Adam McKay's all over this movie, and none of it works. None of it is that funny. Funny the first time, it doesn't hold up. Ant-Man and the Wasp is better. Yeah, no, this movie is very overrated if you think it's better than the first Ant-Man alone. Or second Ant-Man's better. That's what I mean.
Koho. You're stupid. You're stupid. Okay.
They should have just kept Edgar Wright on the job, Jay.
Okay, here's my question. Ant-Man is probably, I will say it, one of the most rewatchable of the MCU movies. Because it's one of the ones that doesn't seem so much like a MCU movie. It's a heist movie. It's got great comedic elements. Sorry, it's not got your yucks that you like, but it got a lot of yucks that everybody else does. I still think the
end everyone is stupid. Great. Everyone else is stupid then.
Whatever you say. Yeah, okay. You were going to put Craig T. Nelson as one of the best actors working last year. Incredibles 2 is one of shut your fucking mouth. Okay.
His performance in Incredibles 2 is great.
Ant-Man is not overrated because honestly, people don't even put it in the top 10 of movies. They put it in the middle range. So guess what? That's properly rated for the MCU. I just think it's pretty funny. Anybody have anything quick to say about Ant-Man or is Koho an idiot?
I actually enjoy this movie. You can call me an idiot all you want. I enjoy the jokes in this movie. I think it's not even, when we look at overrated, I mean, like Cody said, it's not even rated high on people's list. So that's the problem with where you have it on the list.
Yeah, I agree with Cody's point about it being one of those rewatchable MCU films. In my opinion, it's a great heist film in general. I think the fact that there's 17 different comedy directors doing their own thing, I think that adds to how great it is. The comedy is great. Paul Rudd is really good. Michael Douglas is really good in it, and it's properly rated in the MCU. It falls around maybe like the 12 or 13 range, somewhere in the middle, but not like top 5. No, but like you will never see a majority of people put Ant-Man like in their top 5 MCU movies. I mean, other than Michael Campbell, who just commented, you'll never see anybody put it up in like the top 5. So I don't understand how it's overrated when it's properly rated in that tier of MCU movies.
I think they should have just let Edgar Wright keep doing his job. It would have been a better movie.
You. You're right.
Edgar Wright didn't want to continue to do his job, so he left the project.
That's not the reason behind that at all.
That is the complete reason why he stayed it, because he wanted to
Okay,
be
well, guess what?
That's another argument.
Join in
Michael
for
made my point
Multiplex
while you were
Love
gone.
Movies.
Just saying.
Oh, please tell me the man that is the biggest MCU fan in the face of the world, that Michael Campbell is the end-all be-all. He could care less. Kristen Dunst is his favorite actress. Please, Michael Campbell doesn't count in MCU rankings. Love you, Michael, but no.
Michael's about to come beat your shit in, dude.
That's fine. I'm cool with it. Comic books is never his strength. So we're going to go to your 6.
I don't know if my 6 is going to be a yikes, because I think people are going to have a different one in this franchise. I chose Superman 2. Nah. Okay. See, I think everyone chose the other one. I think this is the one movie in the Superman franchise that is like bad. Like it's legit bad that people say is good. I think the Donner cut is significantly better, but going based on the theatrical release of the movie, it's a mess. It feels exactly like 2 different movies mashed together, and it loses a lot of the magic that I think the first one captures. Even though I think the first one is also slightly overrated, I still think it's good. I don't think Superman 2 is good. So,
sure. If you want my hottest of takes, I would put Superman 1 on this list. I think Superman 1, I think all the Superman movies are dog trash. Man of Steel, Superman Returns, all of them. He's a boring superhero. He is a boring-ass superhero. Faster than a locomotive. He can shoot laser beams with his eyes. I don't care. Your secret identity is glasses and a tie. Please shut up. I think he's
not a nice comb over, man. You forgot the flip. It's got a nice flip.
I honestly think he's a boring superhero. I think he does fine with the character, but everybody that puts Christopher Reeve is like this thing, not my problem. So it wouldn't make my list at all. I just think Superman is awful. So
thank you, Paul. I agree. He's my favorite superhero.
Well, Paul, I don't care about you either, because you didn't want to be on the show tonight, but you could be in the chat. Interesting how that works. Anybody have anything on Superman 2?
I mean, if we're going overall list. Superman 2, you can consider the Donner cut what people consider the movie nowadays, and that's actually considered a good movie. I don't think it's
overrated. The Donner cut.
As you just said, you love the Donner cut. So I consider movies when they get their peak, and Donner cut's the peak for Superman 2.
I mean, if I put the Donner cut on here, I'd say Superman 2, the Donner cut, to differentiate.
I know you didn't say that, but
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Any of you guys? No?
I like the movie. I mean, I went back and watched it not long ago, and it is definitely dated. I didn't enjoy it as much as I remembered liking it, but I still think it's a good movie. And I think a lot of people that really praise it and respect it are doing so, acknowledging that it was kind of the infancy of superhero movies, and it's definitely got its flaws. And so it's a good movie. But I don't know anybody that puts it in the top 5 of all time or anything. So a little overrated, maybe, but I wouldn't make top 10.
I agree. I don't think you're going to see anybody putting it in their top tier of superhero movies. So I think it might be a little overrated. I think number 6 is too high, but I think for the most part, it's properly rated for where the majority of the public puts it.
Fair enough. Jay, anything? No.
Cool. Fair enough. Go ahead.
My number 5 is the yikes from earlier. That would be Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Still yikes.
All right.
Fuck y'all.
My number 4 is, again, I picked a different one from a franchise that I think everyone else is going to talk about a different installment. I chose X2, X-Men United. Cool. All right. All right, X2 is the way that y'all talk about Wonder Woman is the way I talk about X2. There's 2 good scenes in the entire movie. The rest is dog shit. There is dog shit throughout this entire movie, except for Nightcrawler in the beginning and Wolverine in the mansion. The rest can go to hell. This movie is so bad. It's Bryan Singer's early 2000 cringy comic book movies, and I hate it. People are like, "Oh, it's the infancy of superhero movies, and it's genius for what it is." No, it's bad. It was bad then. It's bad now. It's terrible. So go away.
Well, see, Koho, when adults and grown folk were growing up, we didn't see this movie in 2011 when we first started watching movies. We actually watched it, earlier. And at the time, those effects and everything were great. I'm sorry that you only picked 2 great things. I think the entire Shocker, what's his name? the Doctor or the
Stryker?
Striker.
Who's better in future movies than he is in this one? Cool.
Absolutely incorrect. If you dare try to say Days of Future
Right.
Past, he is better.
Days of Future
You're
Past.
an idiot. He's actually got emotional elements. He actually has to battle with it.
What emotional elements? He's a fucking paper cardboard.
Hey, can I ask you a question? This is my show, and you said your piece, so please sit there and shut the fuck up. Thank you. X2 is literally one of the best X-Men movies. It is X2, it is Days of Future Past. For me, it's First Class. I think those three movies are amazing together, honestly. But yeah, I completely think you're wrong. This entire movie has actually stakes, tension when the lake and everything goes over. And Stryker is tied to that. I think it's just so cool. I think this movie is. I still watch it today. I think X-Men, the first X-Men, gets way more praise than it does, like what it started in 2000 and stuff. But it's pretty weak. This one excels and makes it fantastic. So, okay. Anybody have X2? Do you think it's an overrated piece of crap? Please let me know.
Boy, you got it on Ryan Premison. But X2, and you're saying he's a paper the entire plot is built around his son. It's built around his goddamn son. You lose Jean Grey. It's ruined by X3. If they would have just left it alone and gave a heartfelt ending to Jean Grey, the ending of that movie is fucking ridiculously good. She sacrifices herself for the entire team. You learn about Logan's past. You learn about the ability that through the ice wall, you can tell Brian Cox's performance and Hugh Jackman's performance that they are connected. I'm sorry. X2 should not be on this list. Sorry.
Yeah,
You don't get to wrap people up.
I 100% agree with what Doug said. X2 is one of those superhero movies that is its pacing is phenomenal. There are great emotional elements to it. You get the backstory to Logan, which is the first time you see the backstory of Logan, and that sets up what we see in future movies. You get that little taste of where Wolverine comes from. And are we going to forget the Wolverine versus Deathstrike fight? That was pretty dope too.
I think it's the best of the first three, but it's still a little overrated. I'm not gonna lie.
Thank you. It is the best of the original three, but it's still overrated.
But is it number four?
Hold on. First and foremost, don't thank me. I'm not the person whose opinion freaking matters in this show. So just knock that right off.
No, this is my favorite thing. Koho, you were like, it's a little overrated. Thank you. You sold my point. It deserves to be fourth. No, it doesn't. You're an idiot. Move on. Brian, what do you think?
I disagree with him, but I'm not going to waste my breath. Just echoing what everybody else already said. Moving on.
Fair enough. Okay. Thomas, start with 7 and move up.
All right, so my 7 is the other MCU film from 2015. It's Avengers: Age of Ultron. Now, this is going to be in response to all the fanfare, all the hype it's gotten in recent years. Like, oh, Avengers: Age of Ultron was actually a good movie. No, it wasn't. The writing is absolutely atrocious. The characters are extremely one-dimensional in this film, except for Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, who actually have a decent backstory. But again, they wasted away by just killing off Quicksilver in the, we have to save Hawkeye somehow because he has a family cop-out. Again, the writing, absolutely terrible. It's filled with silly one-liners. It's so bad. I'm losing my mind here. Yes. Overrated. It is overrated because it has gotten a lot of popularity in recent years since Infinity War and since Endgame, because people have started to see it as this good MCU film, and it's not. It's trash, and it's very overrated.
Okay, good sir. I don't believe this movie is trash. I believe this movie is good. I believe this movie sets up future stakes in it. I agree that most people do not like how they used Ultron, and I'm with you. Ultron was very badly used. It was the Avengers versus the Transformers. But at the end of the day, I don't consider this overrated. I consider this middle of the road. I just believe this is fan base. This is like the definition of, in my eyes, what The Last Jedi did to people. They got the Avengers. They loved the Avengers. Then they get Ultron, and it didn't live up to what they wanted. But this wasn't about them fighting another force. This was this team actually learning to work together and having stakes and stuff like that. And I honestly really dig the thing. I don't believe the twins have that great of a backstory. I agree the comedy elements are a little too much in this movie, but I honestly do not believe it's rated because most people consider it a bad movie or at the middle tier of MCU. And that's fair if that's what they think. I'm just more of I'm one of the oddballs that say, It's in my top 10. I'm okay with that. I like Ultron. So, anybody else on Age of Ultron?
I think it's a fine movie. I've gone back and watched it since Endgame, and like I agree with Cody. It does set up a little bit more than people gave it credit for, but it's a mid-tier movie, and I say it's pretty right where it's supposed to be.
I've always liked it. I didn't come around on it and suddenly decide it's good. I've thought it was good all along. Now I don't think it's top tier. Again, like everybody else said, it's mid-tier movie, but not overrated. No.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's a little underrated, like slightly underrated, because I think the script is actually good. I think what happened is they had to cut a lot out, which is why the movie itself, the story presented, doesn't make sense almost entirely. Like the Thor tangent feels shoehorned in because he cut the entire storyline that was written within the script for it. I think it's a good movie. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it could have been better if they'd probably left the script as was. But
Jay, did you say?
No, just to quote Whitney Seibold on Twitter all the time. I think this movie's perfectly rated. I think people underestimated this movie for a little bit, and then they go back and they watch it, and they're like, "Oh, it was low tier. Now it is kind of middle of the road. It is middle of MCU. It's not the greatest movie of all time, but I don't think that this movie's overrated whatsoever. I don't think that this movie got enough ratings for it to be overrated."
Fair. Okay. Go to your 6, Thomas.
My number 6 is another. It's another movie that tries to be really funny, but it falls kind of flat on its face, and it's Kick-Ass.
Yikes!
Okay, then I don't talk about it.
No, yeah, nope. We'll move on. Go to your 5.
Okay, so my number 5 is X-Men. It's the first X-Men from 2000.
Yikes!
So you and Doug are sharing a list. Cool. We got your number 4.
And my number 4, again, it has gained a lot of popularity in recent years. People praise its visuals and some of the performances. It's Doctor Strange.
Anybody have Strange higher? I thought it was higher on somebody's list.
Yeah, It was on the list that didn't make it.
Got it. That's what I thought. Okay, go ahead.
So Doctor Strange is really one of Doctor Strange is one of those movies that it gets praised for sort of all the wrong reasons. Yes, you have Benedict Cumberbatch playing this really pompous, douchey surgeon, but from the start of the movie, it just seems off. Sort of. You have the whole scene when he's playing the music, and when he's playing music while he's doing surgery, they try to pass him off as some sort of doctor version of Tony Stark, and then he gets into an accident with his hands. The pacing, it's off the whole way. The performances are not great. You have Benedict Cumberbatch is trying to force that American accent out of him so bad. I believe he's better in other MCU films, not this one. Tilda Swinton is definitely the highlight of this film. It has probably one of the worst MCU villains in Mads Mikkelsen's Caecilius. He's awful in this movie. It's one of the worst MCU villains. And this movie gets praised for its visuals, its use of the mystical arts. Scott Derrickson's directing and sort of the more horror mystical type of movie. But to me, it just all goes by the wayside, and it's one of the most overrated superhero films.
So this movie will always have a special spot because I saw this the first time and I walked out of it, and my friend asked me what I thought of it. I said, I don't know what the fuck I just saw. I think I was on acid the entire time, and but I don't know what I saw, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was great visually. I understand how people think this is considered a Tony Stark ripoff, and I totally get that across the board. Again, Scully, I don't know if this is overrated. I just don't think it's highly regarded. I think most people don't like it or like it somewhat. I think it's really good, but it's still maybe a little bit too. I think this movie shows what the visual effects are. I think the visual effects are phenomenal in this movie. They're very trippy. They're very weird. 3D makes you about vomit, and so I like Doctor Strange. I'm on the oddball, so boo on you. Anybody else got anything on Strange?
First and foremost, the whole trippy thing, literally Steve Ditko's entire idea behind this comic book. So if you don't understand that, don't watch comic book movie. No, I'm kidding. I like this movie. They are basically splash pages come to life, and I love that, especially with the way that it was actually brought into the reality of it. Doctor Strange is actually, in my opinion, underrated. This is one of my low-key favorite MCU movies. I do agree with you, however, Bumbersnooch Combinac cannot do whatever he cannot do an American accent to save his life, and you can definitely tell. But other than that, I have an issue with your Tilda Swinton thing, but I'm going to bring that up with a pick later on. I like the direction that this movie went. I don't think that this movie is overrated. I think this movie is underrated, actually. So, yeah.
I'm actually in the same boat as Jay. I really like this movie. I don't think people like it as much as I like it, but I'm a Scott Derrickson fan, and what he did, what he brought to the screen was ridiculously good. The imagery, the horror imagery. I wanted horror in the MCU, and I think we're going to get it in the sequel a lot. But I really like this movie. I just don't think a lot of people are on the same boat that I am. Even though 3 of us on the panel have, I guess, agreed that we like this movie.
Last 2. Where you
Go?
go?
I like the movie, but again, I don't think anybody thinks it's like top tier, so I don't consider it overrated. But I enjoy it.
No, it's not top tier. Like, I don't think it's top tier. It's in my top 15 for the MCU. I like it. It kind of clones the Iron Man story, but does enough differently that I can still enjoy it. I remember 2016 was just all third acts were Skybeam, Grey Monster armies, and then this was Dormammu have come to bargain, and I thought that was super refreshing that the villain where the hero actually outsmarts the villain and just annoys them to death because I relate. But yeah, I thought that was a fun third act finale, and I like Doctor Strange, so.
All right. Hot takes Michaels. Here we go. Give us your 7.
All right. Number 7, Hellboy 2. Nobody? Okay.
Yes.
Another one I enjoyed to some extent, but I thought Hellboy 2 was like a lot of sequels, kind of more of the same, but I thought Hellboy 1 was better. And that's where I consider overrated, is that a lot of people talk about how Hellboy 2 is so much better than Hellboy 1, and I don't see it. I see it equal at best, probably Hellboy 1 being a little better. I didn't like the villain characters. And so that's where I fall on that one. Anybody?
Wrong. I love Hellboy 2. I think Hellboy 2 is literally one of the best comic book movies. I agree. I am in the camp that I love Hellboy 1 and Hellboy 2. I do like Hellboy 1 when it sets up, but I love when it cashes in, and I love how weird it gets in Hellboy 2, like more than what I thought. And I think they do go, I think it gets a little big for what it does, so I can understand why it gets a little lost, because how Hellboy 1 was such a tight story. Hellboy 2 like ventures off, and we never got to see the payoff, so it kind of sucks.
It tried to get too ambitious, but then without following through.
Yeah, so I can see your viewpoint on that. I just really enjoyed this movie a lot. So 7's a fine point, especially if you like Hellboy 1. I can get why because people do think this is better than 1, so that's fair. Anybody on Hellboy 2? Caleb's probably never seen it.
I just think I don't know. I think this is the perfect depiction of a Del Toro comic book movie. This is literally everything you want. He creates creatures that are just fantastic to look at, and I just think the movie's just an amazing comic book movie, superhero movie too. But yeah, I don't think it deserves to be on an overrated list.
Anybody else on Golden Army?
Well, it fits that you call it a Del Toro comic book, because I think Del Toro's an overrated director too, but that's just me. Different show, different episode.
It's getting quite spicy. Okay, we're going to go to number 6.
Number 6, somebody had it earlier. I think it was Caleb is Aquaman.
Yeah.
Anybody have it higher? No. Okay. Aquaman, I know there are people that don't like Aquaman, myself included. But there is a very large amount of people who seem to love it and say, oh, it's a great popcorn movie, and if you just have fun with it and it's one of the better DC movies and all this stuff, it's like, no. Jason Momoa made a good character of Aquaman. I will give you that. I thought he was cool. But that movie is such a fucking mess. And then it's just the battle sequence, especially like the underwater battle sequences, they were just kind of repetitive and went over and over and over again, like 3 different times. And it's just like, when is this shit going to end? When they're going to stop looping the same shit? And I don't understand why, even if you're giving it the whole, it's just a popcorn movie, looking at it that way, I don't understand why people can give it as much love as it does.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. This movie is... Oh, Caleb had it first. Go ahead.
When I walked out of it the first time, I'm like, I think I liked it. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that really didn't make any sense, did it? It was a lot of just CGI vomit with people that you recognize in the middle of it. So most people put this in like the top 3 of the DCEU, and I get that because there's not a lot to love about the DCEU.
That's not saying much.
But I think even in the DCEU, this is like a bottom 4 of the 8. I don't even think it makes the top 4. I think there's some. If we did an underrated, there might be one DCEU movie from before that I put on it. But I think Aquaman's not great at all. It didn't deserve the price.
I've never probably eye rolled more in a comic book movie than I did in this one. Just the amount of stupidity that's put into this movie. When it opens and like Nicole Kidman and them are sitting on the couch and people are blowing up the house and they go into the swimming, and then Dolph Lundgren is there and fucking Willem Dafoe, and the guy is calling himself Ocean Master. And then as the stupidity keeps going and going, then we get Julie Andrews as like the person. I'm like, is that Mary Poppins? What are we doing? And like, it never pays off for me at all. I don't think Jason Momoa is a fantastic actor. He is a set of abs and muscles, and that's basically why he's put on the screen. And he got his success way after season 1 of Game of Thrones, which is so confusing. He was around a lot time before, but then season 7, everybody's like, remember the guy from season 1? Let's start casting him in everything. No, I'm over it. I think this movie is garbage.
I don't think Momoa is a good actor. I just thought that he fit that character, what they were going for there. I thought he made a good character there. But other than that, no.
At least the comic book characters in Age of Ultron make sense. Aquaman never made sense from the get-go. I don't remember him talking to one fish. Pisses me off still to this day. Okay. Anybody else on Aquaman?
This would probably been my 11. I do think it's overrated, but I have movies that I just dislike and disdain more.
Hold on.
I think. Oh, no.
Go ahead, because I have a question for Cody. Go ahead, Scully. Go ahead.
I think that when you look at Aquaman as a character, the whole concept of Aquaman is ridiculous as it is. This is a guy who goes and he breathes. He breathes underwater. And he communicates with undersea creatures. Just the inception of Aquaman was ridiculous in general. The fact that people were expecting anything other than a ridiculous popcorn flick, I think, was absurd in itself. It is an absurd popcorn flick. And I think a lot of people do rate that as like, it's an absurd popcorn flick, but it's fun. And I think a lot of people properly rate where it is. Again, I probably would have put it at like maybe 11, 12, 13, something like that. But I don't think it's that overrated.
But we live in a day and age that we've gotten an Ant-Man, a Black Panther, numerous characters that may be stupid on screen or considered. The Aquaman should work. It should be fine. We should be able to do a justice to that movie in 2019. But the fact that we got nothing, he didn't even talk to a fish. He talked to Julie Andrews, and she did not offer him a spoonful of sugar and pissed me off. Jay, what do you want to say to me?
That was my question. I wanted clarification. Are you saying Aquaman didn't talk to a fish? Aquaman talked to a whale. I mean, that's basically just one big ass fish.
Dory.
Whale's a mammal.
So did Dory. That's
Whale is a
one big
mammal.
ass fish. We live in a society. And Julian just decided to do this instead of Return for Mary Poppins Return. So like,
she should have done that. This is terrible.
No, she shouldn't have, because that was a bad movie too.
I'd watch Mary.
Mary Poppins is better than this, though.
Correct. Chimney. Okay, so we're gonna still live in society, and we're gonna go to your number 5. So let's go.
if I hadn't alienated the entire community yet, this should do it. Number 5, Black Panther.
Oh,
Nobody?
yikes.
Okay. And number 4 has been yikes a couple times, is the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
I think it's finally right at some match. So here we go. Let's go, Spider-Man.
Okay.
Let's go, you pieces of shit. Tell me how bad it is.
I get that people want to see Spider-Man on screen, and we enjoyed seeing Spider-Man in action. That was cool. But you had Tobey Maguire, who's a bad actor to start with. He's whiny. He's annoying. You have the Green Goblin looking like a Power Ranger villain, and the action scenes look like something out of the Power Rangers. You got Sam Raimi's direction, which its quirkiness is kind of works in the kind of horror movies he does. But when he tries to put it into a movie like this, it was distracting. I didn't like the way that was done. Two was obviously the best of the 3, but even that, I think that's all right. I don't dislike that movie. 3, I think gets a little too much hate, but it's not a good movie. But 1, I think is the most, as far as the disparity between how good it is and the credit it gets. So it's overrated.
Go ahead, the other 2. Let's go.
You had it higher. I had it 8.
Yeah. Oh, so did I. So it doesn't.
Oh, cool. Go for it.
You had it at 8?
Yeah.
Wait, no, Koho didn't.
No, you're right. I'm an idiot. No, I had it 5. Okay.
Bye.
Anyway, Spider-Man. It's cheesy and campy, and that can work for some things. I don't think it works for this. Like Spider-Man is quippy and fun, and Tobey Maguire is sandpaper. So when it comes to Spider-Man, we've seen better from even the other 2, 3 Spider-Mans that we've gotten than Tobey Maguire. And I think there are elements of this that feel like Joel Schumacher's Batman films at times, like that campy and that dorky and cheesy. So it was like, it's not great. Spider-Man is not great. Not like Spider-Man 2 is the only one that is a fine movie, but Spider-Man as a whole, the Raimi movies are bad. They're pretty bad.
I put this on my list because of the way that I didn't want to put Spider-Man 2 on my list. I didn't want to put Spider-Man 3 on my list. I want to put Spider-Man on my list because this is where we get Tobey Maguire, and he is too high up on a ranking of Spider-Man anymore. He should be like 7 or 8, right below the animated series. I think Tom Holland does a better Spider-Man, and I think people just regard Tobey Maguire too high. So I was like, nope, you're going on my list.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I get it. It hasn't aged the best. I still love Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. I don't believe they are bad movies. I believe they are campy. Yes. Are they cheesy? Yes. But that's kind of that worked for the Spider-Man at the time. I love the person that's saying that loves Amazing Spider-Man 2 is saying all this stuff. So that's just fantastic to me because you're a visual effects guy. Whoop-de-doo. I'm sorry. I think Willem Dafoe is a fantastic Green Goblin, regardless how he looks. I think he's a fantastic. I think J. Jonah Jameson. I believe the 2 weakest parts of this movie are when Tobey Maguire is Peter Parker and when Mary Jane shows up in any scene. I believe those are the 2 weakest parts. But when it's Spider-Man and it's the action, it's the fun, it's the intrigue between the two, I have a ton of fun with it. So they will always rank high on my list. I think they are great comic book movies. Spider-Man 2 is amazing. Fine. I love that you said fine. Oh, gosh, I hate Koho. And he didn't even have it the highest. So considered overrated, sure. I can't argue with it because people still tout it as one of the best comic book movies ever made. 2, yes. 1 started it, so I'm fine with it. But it doesn't consider it it's not a terrible movie. Scully or Jay, you got anything to say about Spider-Man?
No, Jay, go ahead.
I think this movie is perfectly fine. I agree with you. I think that J. Jonah Jameson is by far probably one of the better side characters that we get. I don't think this one's overrated. I think that this one's just right where it should be.
Scully, anything? Well, as I always would say, Caleb, you're useless. As J. Jonah Jameson would say. Was that your number 4, Brian?
That was my 4, yes.
All right, Douglas, started off 7.
Cool. My number 7, Unbreakable.
Yikes.
Cool. I'll move on to my number 6, The Crow. Nothing. Cool. I think this movie is fine for where it's at. But it gets this whole big it's an amazing gothic comic novel transferred over. I'm like, no, it's a 90s nostalgia fleck that you just love because you watched it in the 90s and you place it so high. It has maybe cool scenes, but nothing really meat to the story. And I just think a lot of people just put this movie as being the all and be all when you have a gothic horror novel superhero.
Sorry, nothing against that. I just saw James Andrew Bars. Wait, what, Koho? Electro gets his powers from falling in a vat of eels. That's realistic. Thanks for pointing out the realisticness of your movie. Andrew Barr, you're literally one of my favorite people in this community. The Crow? No. Maybe in certain circles. I just don't hear it talked about, especially in the comic book genre. I just hear about the movie that's supposed to come out. The movie that's supposed to be made for 40 years at this point.
20 years ago, they dropped that?
It's supposed to keep getting remade. That's all I hear about The Crow. I don't ever hear anybody talk about the original Crow. So I'll go to somebody that probably saw The Crow in theaters. I'm going to go to Brian. What's your thought on The Crow?
Absolutely, I did.
I know you did.
I love The Crow. I think it's a good movie, but even I don't think that it's rated and praised that much. I guess I'm not just hanging out with the Hot Topic crowd that Doug is, that wants all the the gothicness and stuff.
I gotta get my trip pants from somewhere, man. Go Halloween time, son.
Because I mean I know people that are fans of it, but even like myself, who I really like the movie, I don't consider it one of the top comic book movies or anything. So while I disagree with him on the quality of the movie and how good it is, I don't even see an argument for the Overrated.
Okay. Anybody else on The Crow?
Yeah, I've never met anybody who rates The Crow as like a top tier superhero film. Again, I might not be hanging out with the right crowd or whatever.
Douglas, get out of Hot Topic. What are you doing?
Sorry, man. I need those trip pants.
He's looking for 14-year-old girls, apparently.
Whoa.
No, he's not Brandon Urie.
Whoa.
No!
Whoa.
New subject. Move on.
Please, new subject, because that was a whoa. That felt like a personal attack on my character for a minute.
A personal attack on Hot Topic is what that was.
Okay.
I've never seen The Crow. I don't know anyone who rates it that highly. Cool. Jesus.
I don't know anybody who talks about this movie other than people who get this question wrong for over-explaining what happens at the ending in this movie, and also at the exact same point in time, nobody talks about this movie outside of the fact that, oh, did you know that Brandon Lee died during the making of this movie for this prop pistol going off? And I'm just like, dude, that rumor is older than the internet. We get it. It's true. Cool. You're edgy. You're still talking about that 30 fucking years later. The Crow, not overrated. The Crow, barely rated.
Yikes. Yeah, this is getting rough. Let's go to your next one.
Cool. My next one was a yikes from earlier and it's Kick-Ass.
Okay.
While I do like this movie a lot, I just don't think it's as good as people say. It's a good movie, but it shouldn't be where it's at on people's list. It was a fine Mark Millar graphic novel that got turned into a decent movie.
Yeah.
Who else had it? Scully.
I had it as my 6. Yeah, I agree. It's a decent movie. It should not be as highly rated as it is. The story in itself, it's ridiculous. A lot of the comedy falls flat. The story about of a loner guy who goes out as a vigilante, and then he kind of lucks his way into becoming this superhero, into this, I guess urban legend neighborhood hero. When he should have died in like the first 20 minutes of the movie, if we're being realistic here. So yeah, it should not be as highly rated as it is. Way overrated for where people put it. Yeah.
This movie does, when you do something different and edgy in comic book movies, people love it and they'll talk about it forever. I wish I could go into more detail, but it will come up soon. But yeah, this is a fun. I like this movie, honestly. This one actually works for me. I don't like Kick-Ass 2 as much. But Kick-Ass 1 was, a nice change of pace. Something that you don't normally see. I get it that people tout it. It's like super high, but I don't like when I've been on ranking shows or talking about people when you talk about the top 10 comic book movies. Kick-Ass doesn't really pop up unless it's like somebody wanting to be different or edgy, like, oh, I love Kick-Ass, but it's still going to be the MCU, the DC. So that's fine if it didn't work for you, but I don't know if that makes it overrated. Anybody else on Kick-Ass?
I really like Kick-Ass. I like both of them actually, although I will admit the second one is not quite as good as the first one. They focus a little bit too much on Hit Girl on that one, but I really like Kick-Ass, and I think it deserves all the attention it gets. That's just me.
I love Mark Strong in the movie.
Of course, Hit Girl is Brian's problem with Kick-Ass too.
No, I just like the whole high school subplot story. That's all.
No, Kick-Ass 1's good. I like it. I don't hear anyone saying it's like the greatest. It's probably on the higher end of the spectrum for me when it comes to the the movies based on Marvel comics. But like, I like it. I'm not putting it in my top 10 of all time though.
Jay? No? All
It's
right.
okay. I like the villain. That's about it.
Go to your number 4, Doug.
Cool. My number 4 is Iron Man.
That's a yikes.
Thank you.
I don't feel safe anymore. Okay. Let's go to. Okay, we're finally at Doug. We're at Jay. So Jay, 7.
X-Men First Class.
Yikes.
Oh, come on. Okay.
I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go home.
Same.
Look. Overrated is subjective. We said it off top. So I will skip this one and move to
just real quick. It is not subjective on the show. There's a right and a wrong, and you're in the wrong, but I will tell you later. So let's move on to your next one.
6. Captain America, First Avenger. Y'all can go ahead. Go ahead, Scully. What you gonna do? You gonna come back to Seattle? I'll punch you in your white ass neck.
This is getting so dark and crazy. No more 5 people. But go ahead.
Captain America: First Avenger. It's okay. Like it's not as good as everybody says that it is. The villain is barely villainous. He's more of a monologuer than Syndrome is in The Incredibles. He doesn't really do a lot. He's not even the most interesting bad guy that we've seen up until this point in the MCU. I think this movie gets a lot of credit, but I think that they're trying to put it on the backs of people, and it doesn't really work a lot. The dynamic between Bucky and Steve is really weird at some points. I honestly, I just think that First Avenger is overrated. I still think it's a phenomenal movie. I can like a movie and still think that it's overrated.
Okay.
What is that? You?
I don't know. Hello. So this is a movie that's very interesting. What is this sound that's happening? I'm not okay with it.
That was me. Keep referring to the noise that we heard before. I said they're back.
Okay. So right. So this movie is one that when I got involved in this community, everybody was like, First Avenger. It's got to be at the top tier of everybody's list. And I said, really? And then I rewatched it, and I find this movie very enjoyable. Maybe it's not should be as high as it is, but I don't know if it's like super overrated. I think it came out at a weird time where everybody's not realizing like what the story was, or the CGI didn't work for people, or people didn't like the overall story. But when you go back and rewatch it, especially know what you know in the MCU, I find it very enjoyable, and I like it a lot. So, whatever. Your other one pisses me off more that's higher, but we'll talk about that in a second. Anybody on Captain America: First Avenger? Scully wanted to punch you in the neck, so let's go.
Okay, so I think Captain America: The First Avenger is one of these superhero films that has aged very well since it came out. It beautifully blends the period piece aspect with the superhero origin story. You have Steve Rogers, this really skinny kid from Brooklyn. Nothing seems to be going right in his life. He wants to enlist with the army, but he can't. And I think a lot of it can be lended to Alan Silvestri's score. I think that is a big proponent of this movie. I think that it really helps tell the story of Steve Rogers. I think it's a phenomenal World War II film. It's a great hero's journey story where you have, the hero, he's down, but then he rises, and then he has the tragic ending, him going into the ice. I still think Steve going into the ice is one of the most emotional comic book film moments, especially now that you go back watching the later MCU films, seeing that scene again. It's filled with emotion. I actually think Hugo Weaving's Red Skull is a very good villain. The accent's a little odd, but I think Hugo Weaving lends a lot to that performance. Haley Atwell is great in that film. Tommy Lee Jones lends a lot to with his performance, and the dynamic between Steve and Bucky. I actually think it's really good. I think it's one of it's one of the highlights of that film. Bucky is why Captain America risks his life and becomes Captain America in the first place, is to save his life. So, right. Big no for me there.
Shut up, Scully. Sorry. You didn't know the rule, but I get to tell people to shut up. That's because of Luca. If you don't like it, don't come back.
Whenever you want.
But you said a good point. Jay, why don't you like World War movies with superheroes involving World War I or World War II?
It's not that I don't like those movies.
Seems to me they're both on your list. Wrong, incorrect. Okay.
I don't like Nazis, okay?
What is wrong with you?
No one said you did.
Anybody else on Captain America before we get on Nazi rant?
I love it. I love it, and you're crazy. Move on.
I think the movie's good. I liked it the first time I saw it. I think the movie's good. I think it's fine where it's rated. I don't think it's overrated. But
what he said.
I think the third act is definitely a lot better than what tried to come out in 2017.
Not what he said.
Jay, continue your hot streak of being wrong on this panel. Go to your number 5.
Love you, Brian.
Hey, that's completely fine. I'll be the Ryan Permison of this this list, and wear that with a badge, like a badge of honor, sir. My number 5, Deadpool. Go ahead.
Now who's pandering this week, Jay? Now who's pandering?
Go ahead. Bring it on. I don't necessarily like this movie. They make a lot of meta jokes in it, and I get it. That's the character that Deadpool is, that's been presented in the comic books. I think they try to go overboard with it. I think the fact that, you have Weasel and Deadpool, or you have Weasel and Wade sitting there, oh man, you look like a topographical map of Utah. You look like an avocado, fucking older avocado. It's okay, but they're reaching, and I don't think that works. There are beats and there are portions of this movie that I truly like. I didn't need Bob the Hydra agent to pop up. Granted, I get it. It's a little inside for everybody. It's not bad. I think that this movie's overrated. I don't think that this movie should be like everybody's go-to. Oh, fuck this. This is Ryan Reynoldsy being Ryan Reynoldsy. I think that they kind of make a good enough point. Fuck Van Wilder, and that's really all he did. They gave Van Wilder cancer and another superpower, and this is what you get.
Yeah, they did.
Ooh. Jay, once that I think that you're totally without be able to redeem yourself, then you totally do. This movie is hot garbage. This movie is the most baseline superhero movie. Guy's in danger. Guy grabs superpower. Guy has to save girl. Guy kills bad guy and says fuck balls and shit the entire way through. Ha ha ha. It's hilarious.
Yes.
Listen, I get it. It did something different. But the way that people talk about this movie is completely asinine and stupid. That say it's in the top 10 of comic book movies of all time. It is not even in the top 20. It could not go anywhere near. I get it. There is a fan base out there that absolutely loves Deadpool because of what Deadpool stands for, and the chimichangas, and how many bullets we got left? Let's make it interesting. Man, that guy just impaled him with a sword. Like, there's so many stupid Ryan Reynolds things in this movie that drive me batty. It's just touted way too high. Besides being a bad movie in my eyes, it's touted way too high, and I couldn't agree more. This movie should actually be higher on your list. Perfect. Put it on your list, and the rest of you don't have it. You're high. Go ahead.
Perfect depiction of a comic book character. Literally, absolutely. I can give you comic books that has Deadpool doing the same exact bullshit that he did in the film. Same exact. Are you talking about the character that basically fell in love with Death and made Death fall in love with him? Had Thanos cursed him to become immortal just so he could fuck with Logan?
Cool. Did that happen in this movie? No.
No, but it shows you.
Talk about the movie.
It shows you the off-brand that Deadpool is, and it shows you the character that Deadpool is. He doesn't break the fourth wall until he gets the superpowers. It shows you that's what gives him the superpowers. His ability is through that.
They start the movie with him breaking the fourth wall.
And he also has the superpowers in the beginning of the movie. It's not till the flashbacks. It also has one of the greatest montages. It has one of the greatest montages on film.
Okay. So I will give Jay this. I think the jokes and the jabs, I think that was a little much. I probably would have had it this probably lands at like the 11 to like 12, 13 range. For me, it's still a really good film and a really funny superhero film. It has a very simple storyline, and I think that's what I enjoy about it. It didn't. It tried a little too hard in the comedy types, but when breaking it down and having a love story between Vanessa and Wade, I thought that was very simple, very direct, and that was the heart of the story. And I'm glad they stuck true to the heart of the story. So, is it a little overrated? But it's not. But it's not top 10 overrated. I will say that it's still a good superhero film.
Yeah,
I guarantee I know where Brian's going on this.
I think the story is simple, and I think that's fine. It doesn't need to be any grandiose, over-the-top thing. Same with movies like Iron Man or Spider-Man. They're very cookie-cutter origin stories that don't need to go over the top. It's about the performances and the character, and we enjoy the story that the character goes on. I think the performance is really solid. The comedy is funny, for me, at least for the most part. I get it, Cody. If Mark Wahlberg is not talking about parents fucking in a British accent or a Boston accent, you're not into it. It's fine. I get it. If you only like explicit movies when it's Mark Wahlberg talking about being a Boston State Trooper, is that a fact? Guaranteed. I get it. That's your brand of humor is all Boston swearing, and you don't like the motherfucker got kebabbed on a highway joke. It's fine. All right, I get it.
I gotta say, by fucking kebab.
He's wearing the right kind of pants.
Brian,
he wore the brown pants.
I don't find it overrated at all. I really like this movie. I think it's fun. Is it just Ryan Reynolds doing his usual stick, but in a Deadpool costume? Absolutely. But it's funny and it works, and it gets to send up the superhero genre at the same time as well as being one. I do think that it got to be a little bit much, especially by the time you hit number 2. I didn't like 2 nearly as much, and I kind of fear for the franchise if they try to continue it. I think he's better off maybe as a supporting character and things. But I thought the first one was very funny, and I liked it, and I don't think it's overrated at all.
Me and Brian are becoming best friends on the show today.
I also love that Caleb pointed out a Mark Wahlberg that's not in a comedic movie. That's funny.
It's all comedy. The Departed's all comedy.
His acting is comedic.
It's all fun. There's a lot of that's a lot of comedy in The Departed. There's a lot of funny lines.
Okay, we're not talking about Scorsese movies here.
Yeah.
Like dark
Excuse
comedy.
you don't move on my show. I move on my show and enjoy the same 5 Scorseses you watch. Please shut your fucking mouth. Okay, we're gonna go on to your next one.
This is where we start to get interesting, fellas. This is a yikes from earlier.
It didn't.
This is Batman Begins.
Yikes.
Oh! I think me and Doug just became friends again.
Well, guess who just entered the no invited back on my show ever?
Oh, he's leaving you hanging, Doug.
I don't know, man.
I'll do it.
Okay, but
Yeah, you two have fun pissing each other.
I mean, there was a person named People's Elbow on my show yesterday.
Okay. I don't even want to know. That's why I don't watch that show. Let's go to that's your 4. So now we're on 3. So we're gonna go 3 at a time. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and then 4, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. All right. Koho, start off.
Yeah, mine's the X from earlier. It's Unbreakable. I think there's a lot of promise in Unbreakable, and I just think the problem is it focuses on a lot of the stuff that I don't care about. I guess the problem for me is I didn't go into it the way most people were supposed to go into it, the way Shyamalan wanted people to go into it, not knowing it was a superhero movie, and the twist is, oh my god, it's a superhero origin. But I mean, going into it knowing it's a superhero movie, it's slow, it's boring. There's like one or two moments where I'm like, oh, that's cool, Mr. Glass falling and breaking all of his bones. I was like cringing, but by the time we get to the end, I'm like, oh, that's it. That's all we got. I honestly I like Split and even Glass more because I mean, I like the stories and the dichotomies of the characters interacting in Glass, and I love James McAvoy in Split. So I think Unbreakable is the weakest of the trilogy, and most people say it's the best, and I disagree.
Yeah, that was my 7. That was my 7. I think it's an incomplete movie. He's come on status and said it's an incomplete movie, and I just really, I'd go to a movie and I want a complete movie. If I wanted to wait another 15 years for you to complete it, I'd watch Zoolander 2. No, I really think it's an M. Night movie being an M. Night movie with comic book heroes, and I just think it's dull throughout most of it. I mean, I think some of the scenes are cool when Bruce Willis is falling and drowning, and you find out that's his weakness. It's kind of cool, but I think the score is incredible. I'll give that a definite. But I think the movie overall is kind of boring, and it's really lackluster at the end. And then you get Glass, and it kind of ruins it for me at the end of that when you get Glass. I don't like Glass. I like fair. Split. That's like Split.
I'm in the minority on Glass, so I agree.
I'm not a big fan of Glass.
Hey, shut up. Okay. An M. Night Shyamalan movie, I don't like. I honestly don't like any of his work. I really don't. I think there are stuff that you can like in every one of his movies if you like that sort of stuff. I think Unbreakable is overrated. I think Split is overrated. I think Glass didn't live up to the hype that the other two created for it. I remember seeing it in Split and everybody waiting for the end credit scene. They're like, oh my gosh. I'm like, you all just need to calm down. Like, it wasn't that great. Who cares about the twist in it? So I just think he's a terrible director. He will never rank in any of my top things. So Unbreakable, I mean, fine. I know there's some people that really touted high. I never hear it talked about until we get into these like type shows where somebody's like hipster and brings it up and like, ooh, look at this. So I do love The Happening with Mark Wahlberg because he says a bunch of cuss words in that, and that just makes me giggle.
It's oxygen.
Please do if you're going to talk comedy, My Cousin Vinny, he says a bunch of he says fuck a lot, and that's hilarious to me. That's the comedy I like, not Mark Wahlberg. So get off your joke for a second, Koho. Anybody else with this Unbreakable?
Yeah, I'm not an M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong fan either. So this movie, it's overrated, maybe. It's barely rated, in my opinion. I mean, it's okay. I don't think it's overrated or underrated. It's just stuck in this like middle level of mediocrity where it belongs.
If I wanted to watch Bruce Willis play a rock, I'd watch him in a movie directed by Kevin Smith.
Brian.
Cop-out strap.
I don't see it as being overrated now. And when it first came out, back when I saw it in theaters and stuff, when you were all still children, I thought people were really high on M. Night Shyamalan because of The Sixth Sense, which I think is hugely overrated. And so after that, people loved this too, along with Signs too, just because it was M. Night Shyamalan. It's it's kind of the Christopher Nolan of his day. But nowadays, I don't think this is all that overrated because it's just kind of seen as what
people
it is.
Said it's his best work.
I've still yet to see his best work.
Great.
So we're gonna go to Thomas. What's your 3?
All right, I'm either gonna make a lot of friends or a lot of enemies with this one. Number 3, 1978 Superman. Okay, so
talk about
Cody.
Look, John Williams' theme is iconic. Christopher Reeve, iconic. However, this movie ages like a sour, insert like a raw fruit here. It ages poorly. It's not relatable in any sense of the word. It seems like this really joyous, happy-go-lucky guy on a farm in Kansas, and then when his dad dies, he goes off to explore who he actually is. The first hour of that movie is so slow, and then all of a sudden, 12 years later, boom, he's out. He's Superman. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The movie is just, it's slow. Gene Hackman, yes, he's good. Again, it doesn't age well. Performances outside of Reeve and Hackman are not great. Margot Kidder is awful. I'm going to say it right now. Margot Kidder is absolutely awful in these movies. So, yeah. No.
Jay, you're an ass.
Yeah.
No one can see
Got
what he
y'all
put
to
in
laugh.
No one can see what he put in our private chat.
Nope.
Man, that is not cool.
Oh, that's an old joke.
Ain't it
Well,
though? It's about as old as this movie. It's about as played out as this movie.
I haven't seen it. I haven't heard it, so that's fine. I said my piece on Superman. I forgot this made your list. I hate the Superman movies. I hate all of them. Like I said, Man of Steel, Superman Returns, all the four before it. I think he's a very boring superhero. I don't think he ages well. I think, fine, Christopher Reeves did a great thing back in the day. I'm so proud of him for what he did, but doesn't mean that it still stands up. And I don't care what you did for future. I hate the argument that he gets on people's top 10 list of superhero portrayals because of what he set up for everybody else. That doesn't mean anything. Like, who cares? Like, you were the first. Congratulations. Like, but other people have done it better. So I think Superman's super boring. So, well done. Anybody else?
I believe.
They should
ahead.
all go. You all go because I'm going to talk about this for a second.
Go ahead, Doug.
You will not talk for a second. You'll move on.
So I'm in the same boat as Cody. I didn't put it on my list because I don't think any of the Superman have been good depictions of Superman.
But it's super overrated. They're super highly regarded.
Yeah, I
Talk
don't
to
pay
Matt Kearns
attention.
for 4 seconds.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say. I don't find any of the Superman movies interesting, so I don't pay attention to it.
You could literally cut 35 minutes of this movie and it would be a better movie. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't grow up with this movie like a lot of people. I didn't watch this movie actually until the beginning of this year because I've heard so many good things about it. And then when I got to it, it was overhyped. It's kind of an overplayed sort of movie. It's okay. Gene Hackman is okay. I think I kind of have to agree with him that it is an overrated film. It just barely missed my list. But yeah. And yeah, Superman's an overrated hero in general.
Whoa.
I don't know about that.
No,
Pump the brakes there.
DC written comics, he's better. Trust me.
The only thing that Superman's ever really good in that's come out in the last couple of years, Injustice.
American Alien.
I'll start off by saying I do agree. I've always thought Superman is kind of a boring character just because they're like, let's just give him every power. He can fly, and he's super strong, and he's super fast. He can shoot heat out of his eyes and cold out of his mouth and all this other weird shit. And it's just like, it's just lazy, so I do think he's a little bit boring, although there have been Superman movies I liked. This one I like as well. I don't think it's overrated just because most people I hear talk about this and give this one credit and esteem are because it was one of the first like superhero movies and showed that you could make like, a big budget feature film, of superheroes and it would work. But I don't know of a lot of people that watch this and go, this is just a great movie. I mean, of course it has its fans, but I think overall it's not looked at that way.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been a great Superman movie yet. The closest we've gotten is Returns. Superman's an incredibly difficult character to write, but when he's written well, it's excellent. I think Reeves is a good portrayal of the character. For the most part, he's the best we probably have in terms of a full movie. I think Henry Cavill at the end of Justice League is the best that we've gotten once he doesn't have the CGI lip. I think this movie doesn't really hold up. I agree, Jay. You can cut like 30 minutes of this movie out. You can move things around. Margot Kidder, I think, is fine, but like
The whole
overall,
ending of
I
spinning
get
the
it.
earth backwards, just get rid of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this movie doesn't necessarily hold up, but I love the character of Superman. He's my favorite superhero.
I just love the
shout out. Her name's
superhero
Margot Kidder.
Yeah, Kidder.
I just love the character that says, "Hey, I'm really strong. I'm really badass. I can do all this. But if you find this tiny green rock, it can literally bring me to my knees. Don't worry, it's in space. Everybody on Earth gets it. Everybody on Earth, and they get to take him out with it. So it's so stupid to me.
I will
we'll
say
move
this.
along.
No, never mind. Go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say that I don't think Superman is an overrated character. I think he's a great character, and also Man of Steel is a goddamn masterpiece. So,
Oh no, that is not even a Superman movie. That's not a Superman movie.
Not a
We're gonna go to
Superman movie.
war later.
Hey,
We'll go to war later.
let me just tell
Bring
you.
it.
Let me just tell you. There was one person that got really lucky in Man of Steel, and it was Zod because he didn't have to see the end of that.
Ah!
Yeah.
I wish I was Zod in that ending. Let's go to Brian. Is Brian going? You just went mute all of a sudden.
his audio's off, I think.
How does it happen last minute?
Sorry,
Like,
my window disappeared on me. I had to get back.
Oh, okay.
All right, so my number 3.
Yeah.
My number 3 was yikes for somebody earlier was Watchmen.
Cool.
If you watched last week's show, we already talked about Watchmen there. I thought it was one of the most overrated of the 2000s. People said it wasn't overrated because people didn't really hold in that high esteem. If you want to say that for a general movie-going audience for all of 2000s, fine. But amongst like the superhero, fan community, people love this movie and the comic and all this stuff, and I just don't see it. I'll say it again that it's just big glowing blue schlong, just this piece of shit. And not just because of that. I mean, it's easy to make fun of that, but I thought the movie wasn't well written. I don't think it's well directed because it's everything that's wrong with Zack Snyder movies. And people just praise it. And they like to praise the subtext and the political commentary. And it's just junk. All I got to say.
Yeah. So this was my number 10. And I love the comic. I do love the comic. And it is a faithful adaptation of the comic. And when you watch a 4-hour-long cut and have to watch a 4-hour-long cut, because that is the one that everybody says it's so great. You can watch it once maybe, and then you just at times fall asleep.
Maybe.
But at times that I fall asleep because it gets really boring and lulled. I like the movie, but when you fall asleep through it, I mean, a lot of people have it on the list as like this super masterpiece when it comes to the 4-hour cut of the Snyder cut of that, or whatever the hell it's called. But yeah, no, I think it's way overrated for what people think of a great comic book movie.
I still don't think this movie's rated that high. I think most people are very divisive on this movie. I think either people like it or hate it. I'm in the camp of hate it. I don't care if it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 hours, 12 hours.
You don't think worse than 2-hour cut is a 4-hour cut?
Yeah. I've always been the big fan of that. I think that's what DC does so bad is like we couldn't put all our movie in it, so we're going to buy this edition and we'll have to watch stuff that we cut out that should have been in our movie. I can't stand it. That's why everybody says BVS is better with the ultimate cut. You think I'm sitting down and watching that piece of shit? I'm not watching it because I hated the first one. I'm not going to get it because your editor forgot to leave stuff on the floor. My problem with this movie is what it is. I find it very boring. I find it not exciting at all. I don't gravitate to any character in this movie. I have fallen asleep numerous times trying to watch it and give it other chances. It's just boring, and it's a poorly. I don't think Zack Snyder's ever done a really great movie. I really don't.
His best one was Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah,
his first movie.
I just don't think he's ever done an actual good movie. He's a visual director. He should be a cinematographer. Like seriously, just quit your job as a writer, director, anything, because you're bad. You're really bad. He has proven it time and time again, and this is one that definitely misses the mark. I know that people like the final cut, but if you can make it through 4 hours, well, hats off to you, but I can't. I know Caleb's reaction on Watchmen. We'll go to you in a little bit, but Thomas, you're apparently a Zack Snyder lover, so please tell me.
I think that when it comes to a film like Watchmen, it's one of those superhero films that's really complex, and you got to devote time to it. You got to pay attention to it. And I know that's not for everybody, but I think that I think it's so divisive. It's rated perfectly where it is. I really love Watchmen. It's a very complex movie. You really got to pay attention to it. And I enjoy movies, especially comic book films, that really make me think. I haven't fallen asleep during it yet. I do enjoy the 4-hour version much more than the 2-hour version. That's just me. But I think its complexity, its multitude of characters and their intertwining stories, that I really dig that personally. So I don't think it's overrated at all.
Brian, Doug, we don't get it because we're not learned. We're not learned
sorry,
I was like the
people.
argument
apparently.
if you didn't like it because you didn't get it. Oh, I got it. I just didn't care about it.
I got it. I love the graphic novel. I got it. Trust me.
No, fair enough. Jay, I want to hear what your opinion is on this.
So I don't think that I don't think that the Watchmen itself, the theatrical release of this movie, is overrated. I think that it's fine. I think the overrated version of this movie is the 4-hour version of this movie. I also think that there are only 2 movies on the face of the planet that are over 4 hours that are at least worth watching one time, is this and Kingdom of Heaven. But we're not talking about that. Fucking when it comes right down to it, nobody really likes the theatrical cut of this movie. Everybody praises the director's cut of this movie, which is pushing 3.5 hours long, almost 4 hours long. It's one thing, but you're right, nobody's gonna sit through that. I think if anything, the director's cut should have been his pick, not just the straight up Watchmen.
Sorry, I didn't know that I had to pick specific cuts. I just put it on my list.
I really love Watchmen movie and book. I love the way that Alan Moore deconstructs the superhero and what superhero comics were at the time, and kind of points out the flaws in them, which is why they changed. I think the movie does a really different take on it. I think Snyder wanted to just tell Watchmen without doing the Alan Moore subtext that makes Watchmen. He doesn't really devote the time to like the fact that the big third act thing is that a giant squid creature falls on New York is the book's sort of third act thing. And that's an Alan Moore, like, hey, we're making fun of superhero comics because this is what they do and we need to be better. Whereas the movie's like, we're doing an atom bomb because that makes sense for the movie. I love the movie. I love everything about it. It's just, it's not the book. And I like both different versions for different reasons.
Okay, we're going to Doug. What's your 3?
My 3 was the yikes from earlier, and that's Batman Begins.
Okay, go ahead.
So
Here we go.
Okay, you can say here you go all you want, because guess what? I still have yet to get the Batman that I fucking want. The Batman from the comics. I want my detective Batman. I have yet to get it. I was promised it in this damn movie. I was promised it. But I got a Kung Fu Batman, and I didn't want that. I think the movie is way overhyped. Not like something that comes later. I think this movie, people put it on a pedestal because it's Christopher Nolan, and I don't think it's that great of a depiction of Batman. I really don't. I don't think it's a great depiction of Bruce Wayne either. And they're 2 different people. People don't understand that. It's 2 different people. Bruce Wayne is the costume. Batman's his real person. I'm sorry. You guys can have your head down, have your frowns. I don't think it's the best version of Batman we've gotten. I don't think it's the best version of Batman we will get.
So it was
Go
my
watch
number.
Deadpool. Okay.
I will.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
It was my number 4, and I tend to agree. But I have issues with this movie, and it's an issue that I said we'd get to later. Earlier in this show, and it happens to be the fact that, like, some people complained about the fact that Tilda Swinton was cast as the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, but nobody bitched about the Henri Ducard, Ken Watanabe flip with Ra's al Ghul, when Ra's al Ghul is an individual of Arabian descent. I don't like that. I think it's a little bit of a double standard. I don't think that Christian Bale is that good of a Batman. I don't think he's that good of a Bruce Wayne. And I think that people fillet Christopher Nolan way too much as a director when it comes to everything, because he's not that great. And people just can make that face all you want, Skullboy. It's the God's honest truth. He is not that good of a fucking director, and people need to stop acting like he's this end all be all. He's a great comic book movie director, but this isn't even the best one of the movies that he's directed, and it's still barely a good movie. Everybody who supports this is better. Even Liam Neeson's Doe is a better actor than Christian Bale in this movie. You can roll your eyes all you want. It's the fact.
It's not, but it's okay. Go ahead, Brian. You had it too.
Well, I'm not sure which is more obnoxious. You're eye rolling or Tom Scully like overacting with his gestures and his facial expressions. But anyway, I will agree with everything they said. I believe Christopher Nolan is overrated in a major way. I think Christian Bale. I don't like him in a lot of things, but especially don't like him as Batman or Bruce Wayne. I didn't think he worked as that, and plus he gave us a stupid growling Batman voice, which is just stupid as hell. I thought the villains were weak. The whole surprise just for the sake of having a twist at the end with the swap of the. Al Ghul. It's just, I'm just basically echoing everything they said. So, moving on.
The trailer.
Okay.
Promise.
Can you mute, Doug? Shut your mouth. Thank you. I will come out and say it. Batman Begins is my favorite comic book movie of all time. I think this movie is brilliant. Sorry that the 5-year-olds on the panel did not get what they wanted, and they're upset because we didn't get a Detective Batman, or we didn't get a Ra's al Ghul from Arabian descent. Damn it! Oh man! Oh gee willikers! Who cares? Like, I'm sorry you didn't get the Detective Batman because you got sold on this trailer. You are the problem with The Last Jedi. You're the problem with all these movies that come in with people having expectations that they want to see pay off, but do not get the payoff that they want. That's not a movie for you. Let's make it overrated. I think this movie is underrated of all of them because The Dark Knight is regarded as the end-all be-all. Like, yeah, you two flip out the entire time. I get it that I think I like The Dark Knight and I like Batman Begins. Same, but like Batman Begins is my favorite because it's the most condensed down. It's the Batman learning who Batman is. I don't care that he's a kung fu Batman. Like, that's the Batman they sold me. I'm fine with it. I'm sorry that you read comics and you had expectations because you watched one trailer and he looked like he was going to be a detective and they decided against it. I don't think this movie is bad. I think this movie is overshadowed by its predecessor. It is literally the most underrated of it because I think it's better than The Dark Knight. But The Dark Knight gets all its praise because of Heath Ledger's performance and what it builds up in the big giant world it goes to. That's the problem. So I disagree with you strongly. It just seems like two people that didn't get there what they want, and I think it's three people that hate Nolan, and that's fine. I'm with you 100%. I think Nolan is very overrated as a director. He gets touted as this end-all be-all, but he does two great Batman movies, and I'm fine with them. Maybe Matt Reeves will give you the Batman you want.
That's right.
And then he'll be the best of all because he uses the magnifying glasses and finds footprints. I'm excited. Scully and the tube guys outside the car dealerships that sell cars. Tell me what you two feel like about this movie.
Koho, you go first on this one.
Okay. I think it's the line that you walk when you are making an adaptation and you're adapting something. All the people who love the thing that you made that was written are going to expect that. And I think you got to take the movie at face value for what it is, even though it is adapting something. That's the way I went into Watchmen. That's the way I go into all the shit because you got to take what Nolan presents to you. And I think he presented a really good adaptation of Year One. It's a really solid take on taking the Year One concept and applying it to a real world Batman. And I think that's what we needed coming off of Batman and Robin. It's what we needed. It's not the movie you wanted. It's the movie that we needed for Batman. And I don't know what trailer you watched. There was never a trailer that said he was going to be a detective. Every trailer I saw was a bunch of bats flying around an orange sky that made a symbol of a bat and then Christian Bale running through it. That was literally every trailer. I don't know what trailer he pulled out his Sherlock hat and magnifying glasses and said, I'm going to solve some fucking mysteries.
Yeah, so
I will be a detective today.
Batman Begins is hands down one of the best comic book films. It is the second best Batman film next to The Dark Knight. What Batman Begins does, it breaks down Batman and Bruce Wayne as two different characters. That whole first hour of the movie, he goes trekking to find this identity of fear that he wants to conquer. He goes to Ra's al Ghul because he wants to turn his fear onto the people that he wants to hurt. That to me is the essence of Batman. And I think Nolan does an incredible job going beat by beat by beat, going from the prison and then going back and forth between Bruce Wayne coming back from Princeton and wanting to kill Joe Chill to Bruce Wayne training with Ra's al Ghul. I thought that was was fantastic transitioning back and forth. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that this makes an overrated list. It blows my mind. It's a phenomenal movie. Nolan is I think one of the best directors out there. He does a phenomenal job with this movie. Yeah.
Okay, Jay.
Oh, my number three. My number three is going to get me kneecapped. I'm expecting somebody to come after me with a baseball bat. My number three is Spider-Man 2.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
100%. If Doug's a 5-year-old for not getting what he wants out of a comic book movie for Batman Begins, fine by me. I'll be the 5-year-old for this pick. I didn't get the Doc Ock that I wanted. I think that we got a decent Doc Ock, but really we don't get a whole lot out of this movie. You want to talk about Batman 66 being camp? I believe that this movie has more camp than people give it credit for. Everybody who watches this movie remembers it from the first time that they watch it, and they have the nostalgia goggles on every time that they watch this movie. They don't actually take into consideration that it's not that great of a film. And yeah, so go ahead, tear me apart.
No, I get it. The Raimi trilogy is a camp fest for most people, but to say that you didn't get the Doc Ock you wanted is confusing to me. I get it. Maybe you didn't want the extreme menacing side of Doc Ock.
I didn't want a robot controlled Doc Ock. That's it. I didn't want an AI controlled Doc Ock, and that's what I got.
Well, I love that everybody watches camp, but if you go back to any of the comic books of Spider-Man, he's about the campiest thing you've ever seen in your life. He just brought it to screen. Yes, he is. Absolutely.
In the 60s, absolutely.
Yeah, look at Doc Ock in the comics. He is literally a camp. So I get it. It's not the character you want, and people hate the Raimi trilogy because it's touted so high for the longest time, and now it's the popular thing to shoot it down. Fair enough. Do I think it's overrated? Hell no. Do you think it's overrated? Sure. Anybody else? Real quick on Spider-Man 2. We were running short on time.
It's good. I don't think it belongs on here.
No, it doesn't belong on here. I think it's a great, deep emotional dive into Peter Parker himself and him, conflicting his identity as Spider-Man, conflicting with his personal life and his pursuit of Mary Jane, how he has to control those two worlds. I think Raimi does a great job trying to balance those two worlds. So yeah, I don't think it belongs on here either.
I've already said how I feel about the Sam Raimi ones. Is this the best of the three? Yes, but I still think it's weak. So yeah.
All right.
Moving on.
Koho, 2.
My 2 is my cheat. I did Men in Black. They are definitely superheroes. They wear suits and fight things in space in impossible situations. They are fucking superheroes. And the first one is overrated as shit. This is 90s nostalgia at its finest. The best one's Men in Black 3 because it's the only one that has a story that's interesting. The other two are terrible stories. Tommy Lee Jones is fine, but Will Smith is fine, and the rest of the movie is just rough. I don't care about the anything in the first Men in Black, and it's spawned a sequel that I hate and a sequel that I like a lot and a fourth reboot thing that is just okay. Men in Black should just never have been made into a movie. It's rough.
I really enjoyed the first Men in Black. I think Men in Black has a lot of fun with it. Maybe because I wasn't born in 2000, and I don't get it, but I enjoyed the 90s esque, and I think it's pretty gritty. I don't know if I consider them superheroes. I consider them agents, but they use overpowered weapons. But I guess if that's a superhero, do you find? Anybody quick on Men in Black again?
Yeah,
sorry, but we're running short.
I was born in 1999, and I love Men in Black. I love the Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones dynamic. Tommy Lee Smith shaking the dog, trying to get information out of him. I think it's one of the funniest. It's one of the funniest comic book, scenes ever. I think it's a really fun film. I don't understand where the hate's coming from on this one. This one really took me by surprise. But then again, it's Kaleb Koho, so I shouldn't have expected much.
I will say it's Tommy Lee Smith's best movie because I've never seen anything else that's Tommy Lee Smith.
Exactly.
Sorry. My brain's a little fried right now.
I don't think it belongs to this list only because I don't think it's superhero. Is it comic book movie? Yes, but it's not superhero. It's government agents doing their job. If anything else, it's more of a Ghostbusters wannabe than a superhero thing. I think it's an okay movie. Not great, but yeah.
This is going to hurt Koho's liberal list, I think. Who else?
Lucas is here. He finally showed up for a Your List Sucks episode. I love it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Lucas.
Fuck you, Lucas.
Fuck you, Lucas.
I like this movie. I've liked this movie since I was a kid. I can still watch this movie. Someone get me the cricket so I can take care of Koho.
Anybody
I
else?
understood that reference.
Thanks.
Okay. By the way, Lucas, like Lucas once famously said, if somebody was fatter in a movie, it'd been a better movie. So just remember that from Lucas's side. Let's go to your number 2, Thomas.
Okay, so my number 2 comes from a deep, dark hatred. I am sick and tired of people telling me that Batman Returns is better than Batman 89.
Yikes. Okay. Brian.
My number 2 is one that gets blinded from people with nostalgia. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990. That movie is not good. It's badly made. It's badly acted. The effects are bad. The suits are bad. The martial arts are bad. The comedy is bad. Everything about it is horrible. And people who saw it when they were 5 years old look back on and think it's this great movie. It's not. It's shit. If you watch it again and you still like it, it's purely because nostalgia is bringing it back to you. Take it.
I couldn't agree more. These movies, when I was a kid, these movies were the shit. I am now 28 years old, and these movies are dog shit.
They are shit.
They are
the
so
only good version
bad.
is the animated one from 2007.
Hey, yeah, knock, knock. You're about to get shell shocked. The best one is the end credit scene of Out of the Shadow, I think it is. It's literally the best song of anything of these. I think these movies are garbage. Nazario Montenegro might stop being my friend after saying this, but these movies, do not go see them. They are so high. Yeah, me too. They're you're 100% right. These are for kids that saw these that thought, oh, this is the best thing ever. No, they're terrible. He is a kung fu master. Deal with it. Anybody on real quick on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles the 90s?
Again,
Stop
overrated.
ruining my childhood. Stop it.
For me, overrated. This, again, barely rated. I'm not a big fan of these movies. I mean, they're okay for what they are. I take the 90s camp with going into it. With the 90s camp, it's okay. It's fun. It's a semi-good time watching it. That's all I have to say about these movies.
The funny thing is, so you're saying it should have been on your list, Thomas, because most of your list shouldn't have been on the overrated list. Fair enough. Who the fuck? Okay, this is bullshit all the way from overrated. Okay. Anybody quick on this one?
I love this movie. I don't care what anybody says. Listen, the heartfeltness between Raph and Leonardo, you kidding me? It's pulled straight from the 1980s comic. That's ridiculous. I love this movie. There's another ghost. See, you angered the ghost, Brian. You angered the ghost. Now they're back. They're back because you said you hate TMNT.
Shut your mouth.
I'm trying.
I don't like the Turtles. Move on.
Knock, knock. Okay.
Second, what Koho said.
But you did put Secret of Ooze as fire, though.
Secret of Ooze is fire, though.
Secret of Ooze.
Okay. So the next one we're going to Douglas too.
So I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this probably. My number 2 is,
and that's why we like him.
I am.
I think this movie is highly overrated. It gets rated as the best or the starter of the modern superhero movie age. No, if we're gonna crown anything that, I think X2, kind of the way the story builds up, is better. This movie, I saw it when it first came out. It was a movie that I asked my mom to take me to go see, and I never got the super hype about it. You got Hugh Jackman facing what looks like a Triple H. Yeah, I never got the whole big appeal of this. When X2 came out, I actually enjoyed the movie. I enjoyed the story that it told. I don't think this should be anywhere near the praise that it gets for being a great movie.
I just love that everything is just a letdown of Douglas as a child. Like, he gets screwed over as a kid.
Are all letdowns, okay? My top 3 are all letdowns.
Thomas, you had this. Go ahead.
Yeah, Doug and I are going to temporarily align on this one because I had this at my number 5. Look, is it a good starter to the modern superhero movie? Yeah, but it's way overrated for where people rate it. The story, it's really a muddled mess. You have the Wolverine and Rogue storyline, which it kind of goes into like it varies from Protector to Creeper territory. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I think having Rogue as the center of it with Anna Paquin, I don't think that was maybe the best storyline to go for. And then with that, all of the other X-Men like Storm, Cyclops, Jean, they all get shifted to the side. Even Professor X, he gets shifted to the side in favor of the Rogue and Wolverine storyline. Magneto's okay. The whole turning Senator Kelly into a mutant thing, a nice idea. Horribly executed. The visual effects don't hold up. The movie itself doesn't hold up. It's an overrated movie, plain and simple.
I 100% disagree with this choice. I think this movie is regarded as not very good anymore. I think it's overshadowed by X2 and everything that's come forward. I think this movie started it, so it gets a little bit of a pass, but most people, the most famous thing from this entire movie is you know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else. Like, that's it. That's the only thing that it's really remembered for. It sets up the great characters, but you get more of a development in the next one. So it's great where it starts, and then it gets to X2 and it gets paid off. So I don't think it's overrated. I honestly think it's not even close to rated. Anybody on X2 or X1?
X1. I'll say super quick. I think the first X-Men is not rated at all. It's not good, and people know that. The reason why I had X2 on my list is because that's the one that people watch with nostalgia goggles and say is amazing. So that one I think is overrated. This one's not.
Yeah, X-Men was the comic that I was like way into when I was younger, and so when I heard they're making a movie, of course I was excited. And yeah, this is one of those where we got the movie and it wasn't really at all what I wanted. I mean, there were certain flashes, certain scenes where I'm like, that's what I wanted, but overall it was a very disappointing movie. But I think that a lot of people look at it that way, and they eventually found their footing and kind of, got a few good films out of it and some bad ones. But this movie I don't think is overrated.
Douche Jay, go ahead.
I don't have anything to say about this one.
I was only 27, Jay.
81 on Rotten Tomatoes. Shut up. Like that means anything. Cool.
Okay. People shit on Rotten Tomatoes scores all the time.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's overrated just because 81% of people said yay. All right, we're going to who the hell am I at?
Jay.
Yep. Jay.
Two.
Go ahead. Oh, we already know what it is. Go ahead.
It's Iron Man. Yeah. All you want. This is not top 10 MCU. This is top 17, and it ranks in right at around 17. All you want. That's completely fine with me. You guys can say whatever the hell you want, and I'll just go ahead. Let the hate flow through you.
I mean, I had it at 4, so I'm right there with you.
It's not hate, it's stupidity.
It's not stupidity. It's ranked. Most people have it ranked when you ask them where Iron Man is. Some people have it ranked 7 or 6 on people's list. Absolutely should not be higher. It's a basic origin story. It's taken from every other basic origin story.
It's top 5, maybe.
It is not a top 5 movie.
Number 6, 7, maybe.
It is not a 7. That movie is top 15 at best.
Oh.
So we've learned something tonight, everybody. Join with me. Certain people don't like origin stories, and that's okay. You're allowed to put it where you choose to put it. I get it. People don't. It's not the popular thing to like it, but I'd really be interested to know what your MCU ranking is at this point, because I guarantee there are worse films at the end of it. I think it's great to start where Tony started. He's a fantastic character. I think that movie is a perfect origin story. It goes perfectly through. Obadiah Stane, I still consider one of the best villains in the MCU. People do not give him enough credit as the villain of this movie. There's a lot of tense moments in this. You fall in love with Tony in this movie, and he carries on and continues. I think this is the best Iron Man movie by far. and it continues throughout. And the reason why it still ranks in the top 10 because it still holds up. It still holds up. Like it does not fall after all these years with all these other ones. I think it is better than Guardians 2, Civil War, Age of Ultron. The list goes on and on. The ones that it doesn't beat is probably like Guardians, Winter Soldier, the Avengers, the Endgame, Infinity War, but it's up there. It's a fantastic choice. You guys just don't like origin stories. Proven by, was this not the Iron Man you wanted? I bet not. Tell me what's up.
Okay.
Let me go.
Go, Brian. Go. Tag in.
Is it an origin story? Yes, but to him say it's just the most basic, typical origin story. It could not be farther from the truth. You know, you took a character who was basically making all his money, making these weapons. And he sees what his weapons have done. He has a complete change of heart. He decides to turn his life around and fight against the very thing using the same technology. I mean, you have a great character established in Robert Downey Jr. You have a great film, a great villain. And not only is it fun and adventurous, but yes, I'm going to say it. It set up this universe. It kicked off this MCU universe. And if you don't want to give it credit for that, that's fine. But it still reverberates all the way up to, I mean, they're still using pieces of that in Spider-Man Far From Home this year alone. I mean, this movie continues to influence everything that came after, and deservedly so. But even if you look at it just as the movie by itself, it's a great film.
I will say one quick. Okay.
Oh, man.
Okay.
I'm just going to real quick say, Doug sat there and said, man, I love the story of Deadpool. Man, I like Deadpool, but Deadpool is more cookie cutter basic than this movie's story. Oh my God, man. If you're going to say, this origin story's not good over Deadpool being better, God. Okay.
Okay, so when you break it down, Iron Man is the story of a man who is fighting his legacy. He is basically what he's doing. He's trying to go against everything he's led himself to believe at this point. Once he gets an in-depth look at what his business practice, what he's doing, what that is doing to people halfway across the world, he changes and becomes a force for good. One of the best quotes I think from that movie is, "I have to protect the people that I put in harm's way." That is a resounding quote from that film. And it really sets up who Tony Stark is. He is a person who is troubled by his demons of the past, and he's trying to rectify all the mistakes he's ever made. And you see that not only in this film, but in every film Iron Man is in going forward.
Yep, couldn't agree more. This does not help your guys' list at all. I obviously, duh, you don't care. You still welcome to the show. Number one, so let's go.
All right.
What?
Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Brian.
You're muted still.
You're muted. Brian Michaels. You're muted.
You are
no
muted.
one hears you.
Damn muting. Sorry. Can I jump the line here?
Yes, because
I have to leave. I'm on a time crunch, but I don't want to have to make anybody else rush. So I'm going to go, and then you guys can take your time on the rest.
Works.
Okay. My number one was Yikes Earlier's X-Men First Class. I think this is by far.
Can we not let you go? Can we not let you go?
By far the most overrated superhero movie, and especially X-Men movie. If you made a movie of Professor X and Magneto and Moira with Rose and Michael and James McAvoy, that could have been a great movie. The stuff with them is great. Everything with the D-list X-Men members they pulled up, horrible. It brought us Jennifer Lawrence, who became Mystique, who basically ruined kind of everything since then, because she should not have even been a main character in this franchise, but because of Hunger Games and her success there, they said, "Ooh, let's make her the star of the movies from now on." So she basically affected everything since then. But just everything about this movie, I mean, there were scenes of it that were okay, but anything that did not have the older characters was just trash.
Who else had First Class? What a freaking shock!
Yeah, I know, right?
Go ahead.
I had it, but I had it at number 7. I think number 1 is a little, and by a little I mean a lot, too high.
Not the level of praise people give this movie.
You need an Iron Man.
Is it the worst? No. Is it the most overrated? Yes.
No, I think he means more along the lines like Darwin, their chance, people that nobody even knows.
I'm talking about the young group that assembled with all these losers.
Darwin is one of those. But anyways, this movie is okay. I like the storyline. You get a little bit of understanding between who James McAvoy is, who Charles Xavier is, his relationship with Raven, Mystique, whatever the fuck you want to call her, and then traveling world nonsense. That would have been a better movie than this. I'm just saying. But yeah, no, I think this movie's overrated. I just don't think that it should be. I don't think that it should be in the top 5. I think that this movie is perfectly fine in the bottom 5 of anybody's top 10 overrated movies of all time.
Okay. So
nobody rates that, Nazario. Stop. The only one that they like is the road cut.
That's not true at all. It is literally it is literally my favorite X-Men movie. But my viewpoint on this is I'm the X-Men apologist in the room. I guarantee it. I love most of the X-Men. I don't like Last Stand. I'm not the biggest fan of Apocalypse, and I'm not the biggest fan of Dark Phoenix, but I still enjoy them for what they are. I don't think they're the greatest movies. This one I absolutely, really adore. I do agree with the older characters. I wish they would have centered more on them, but I honestly don't believe the younger characters are used as much. It's more of a training ground. They're used as filler pieces at times, but the center is mainly Magneto versus thing. This movie, I will say it, is top 10 comic book scene of all time is in this movie. When Magneto goes down to the bar and talks to the pig farmer and stuff like that, he's like, blood or honor, which one would you like to do?
It had a scene. Yeah.
Goes back and forth. I agree, like the scene where it's like when he breaks down when Jennifer Lawrence says, you should be called Professor X and you should be called
the whole
Magneto.
Naming scene is the worst scene in comic book movies.
Yes, it's the eye roll of all eye rolls.
Okay.
But like the scenes, like him trying to pull the submarine out of the water, and the when he shoves the coin through Kevin Bacon's character, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I just love the missiles coming at the end, and you learn the backstory, and it sets up who you get in Days of Future Past. I love this movie. I think Henry Jackman's score is arguably one of the best scores used in comic book history. It is amazing. I agree. The points that she is on the screen, the younger characters are used on the screen, but I think it's very minimal at times. So that's my viewpoint. But I can understand your viewpoint when those get overbearing. Anybody else on First Class?
The thing
just
about
real quick.
The thing about the X-Men is that there's so many characters. The young characters are going to end up being interchangeable. So the thing is, you had Havoc, Angel, Banshee, Darwin, all of those. I was fine with them not being all that involved in the actual plot because I knew that they were going to eventually change into the more core mutants like Cyclops, Jean Grey. And I think you had a really good introduction to Beast. You saw where Beast came from. I think that's an important detail that is not to be missed there.
Yeah, and I think y'all are underselling the main plot of the movie being the dynamic between McAvoy and Fassbender, which is the reason why the new X-Men movies are great, for the most part. I think the turning of the satellite scene is amazing. I think that conversation between them where James, you get to see the teacher in him and you see the broken soul that's in Magneto and how those two play off each other through that scene. Gorgeous scene. Great movie. I don't see the kids as that bad.
Brian, by the way, I know you got to go. You get a C for the list. You're not the worst list, by the way. Just to let you know.
Yeah, I got to go. Thanks for letting me come crash your Black Panther party. Speaking of which, somebody yikes that. So whoever has that number 1, I applaud you. And I'll catch you guys later.
Okay. Bye. Okay, so we are now. Anybody else on First Class before?
I walked in this movie blind. Like I didn't know that it was coming out, and I really love this movie. I thought it had a lot of really good X-Men qualities that a lot of people didn't value. I think, and then I think it's a really good movie. I don't think it's overrated.
Fair. Okay. Now we're on to Doug, right?
Or we're going to go that way around.
Yeah.
Well, we can go that way around and come back to me last. That's fine. So we'll go.
No. You're right. We moved for him. You're number 1, Caleb. Go.
Okay. Bouncing off Scully, it's Batman Returns. Batman Returns is the most overrated comic book movie of all time. When people talk about it, they talk about it as being on the level of Batman 89 or better, and I completely disagree. Batman 89, easily the best. Batman Returns, easily the worst of the 4. I said it. Batman and Robin is at least fun to get drunk and watch along than Batman Returns, which has absolutely nothing outside of Michelle Pfeiffer, who is about 15 minutes worth of the movie. The rest of the movie, shit. Danny DeVito's Penguin, shit. Michael Keaton as Batman, shit in this movie.
Yeah,
Movie that makes it a Batman movie. It's Tim Burton doing Tim Burton shit, and it's terrible.
Yeah, this is a Tim Burton movie and not at all a Batman movie. This is Tim Burton being Tim Burton. I don't know what happened to Michael Keaton between 89 and 92, but for some reason he just stopped wanting to. He apparently just stopped wanting to do Batman because what I saw from his performance in that movie was not Batman. It was some shell left back in 1989. It was absurd. Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman, yeah, she's interesting, but she takes a back seat to Penguin when she tries to team up with Penguin. Also, the Penguin, probably the horniest comic book villain of all time. He is straight up creepy in that movie, and I know you got to attribute that to Tim Burton, but Danny DeVito, his performance, it's lackluster at best. Also, Christopher Walken's Max Shrek, I mean, gross. Nada. No, I'm sorry. He has no purpose in that film other than to be a businessman foil to Bruce Wayne, and even then, it doesn't even work.
I feel really bad because one of my favorite people in this entire community is Nazario Montenegro, and I feel like I'm letting him down, but I agree. I don't like this movie. I don't like this at all. I love 89. I really do. And I'm honestly in the camp of Forever because that's just the age I was at when I grew up because I like Forever. And I agree that it's not the best movies at that point. But I don't like Danny DeVito's character throughout this. Michelle Pfeiffer is the best part of this entire movie, but she's very underused. I wish it was just been a Batman and Catwoman kind of story instead of Penguin. I think Penguin's disgusting. It's just over the top. And I know this is really going to hurt Nazario, and remember, I really do like you, and I'll let you host another show, but I hate Tim Burton. I really do. I think he is a bad director. He has hits, but he has so many misses, and it kills me. I think he has talent. He just doesn't know how to put it on screen. Anybody else on Batman Returns?
I mean, I'm not mad at the number one or where it was on Scully's list. I don't like this movie. I just don't hear it talked about like you guys do. I hear 89, but talked about a lot, but I don't hear Returns talked about as much because of the points that you guys made. Danny DeVito is super, super eccentric and creepy in this movie, and it kind of turns me off. I don't really like watching this movie when I go through a marathon.
Fair. Jay? No. Okay. We're going to go to Scully, number one.
This is going to make me the most hated man in this community. I know it for a fact. Look, it's a good movie. Had some great action sequences, but it is incredibly overrated, and it's not even a top 10 MCU film. I'm sorry, it's Black Panther.
No.
Yeah, it's Black Panther. Look, this movie, I say it's a good movie. It has good action sequences. But the biggest problem I have is that's all there is to it. The performances outside of Michael B. Jordan as Eric Killmonger, who is a phenomenal villain, Andy Serkis does a pretty good job as Claw, and Chadwick Boseman, none of the actors gave great performances, in my opinion. Okoye, okay, she was a badass in some scenarios, but the acting performance, shallow at best. Shuri was just there for a couple of lackluster jokes. Okay. No. Shuri was just there for a couple of lackluster jokes and that one scene where she drives the car. And honestly, all the other supporting characters are just shallow. They're one-dimensional. They're not interesting. Again, great visuals, but it just falls into that trap of the MCU standalone film where, you have the hero, he's on top, then the villain comes in, wrecks everything, and the hero has to rise up from the ashes and try and take him on. So I'm sorry to everybody who loves this movie, but it is incredibly overrated. It should not have been nominated for all the Oscars it did. The Oscars I do agree with are costume design, and that's pretty much it. Not original score, sure as hell not Best Picture. I'm sorry. Black Panther is the most overrated comic book film of all time. Again, it's a good movie, but it should not be as highly regarded as it is. I'm sorry. It's the most overrated comic film of all time.
Shut up. Okay, let's just put something out there and just end the conversation right now because, one, I don't like it that was shown on screen. just because you don't like Black Panther doesn't make you a racist.
Mhm.
Doesn't make you a person that doesn't like people of color. It's the dumbest. I understand if it's a joke that you're making, but it's a really stupid comment because it doesn't make anybody else fair to share their opinion on the internet. I feel like it's the dumbest thing you can say because you don't like a movie. That's great.
Sorry, that just showed up, and I was like, "That's funny."
Yeah. My viewpoint on it is it's this is, if you like the movie, fantastic. You like the movie for what it did, but to say that it can't be overrated because of color is stupid. This movie was nominated for Best Picture, and not one acting nomination got put up at the same thing. Not one directing nomination. Not like those are problems throughout this entire thing. That makes that movie overrated. They felt like they had to do something for this movie for the success that this movie made, and that's more of a detriment to the film than what the film is. I think the CGI is bullshit in this movie. Honestly, I think it's terrible. That third act is atrocious. I believe Killmonger is a great villain, and I believe I believe that it's I believe it's a fair. What's the word I'm looking for? It's a movie that it's the Lion King. I've called it the Lion King since it's come out. A king is put in the king. He falls to his break. He has to battle back and beat the person that took the king from him. Cool. I know it's Hamlet as well, but the thing is, that's what it is. It's nothing original in that movie. I think the visuals are amazing in it. Not visual effects, but like the city of Wakanda. I think that's very cool what they bring into it. I like Shuri. I think Shuri is a fantastic character throughout it. But again, it loses. It's every comic book movie that's solo at the turn of it. The ending just doesn't pay off. The CGI falls apart. They do not put enough budget into this movie with how much it made. They should have known it was going to take off, and they could have put another $50 million into the budget, and that last scene would have been amazing. They ruined it. It got way too much buzz. I'm with you 100%. Number one may be a little high, but it is a super overrated movie by the amount of success it got.
And I get that this movie may not have been made for somebody like me. I get that, and I totally 100% support that claim. It was not made for someone like me in mind. However, when I go into a movie like this, I was actually expecting I was expecting great visuals, great acting performances, because you had Ryan Coogler, who is great in Creed, great in Fruitvale Station. I was expecting a phenomenal directing performance from him and phenomenal acting performances across the board, and I didn't get that, and I really couldn't understand why this movie was getting so much praise for the acting and just the overall direction and storyline of the film, which I thought was very bland. And Killmonger's ending, personally, it didn't make sense to me. It just didn't make sense to me. So I'm sorry to everybody who loves this movie. Sorry to Chan. Sorry to everybody who loves this movie, but it is the most overrated film.
Let's go to the other people.
Comic book film, by the way.
Those two because
dude, don't be sorry because you have an opinion. It's for me, I like this movie. I saw it 3 times opening weekend. I love the villains. They're what make this movie for me a lot more than the hero. I think Killmonger's story is amazing in this movie. I think at the end, when you get that whole visual of the afterlife and what it's like is stunning. I think the score, I beg to differ with you. I think the score was done phenomenally. I think it's one of the best scores that were put out that year. For me, it's not overrated. I think it's perfect. For you, it can be, but to each your own.
Koho's going to go a long time, so Jay, you might want to go.
No, that's completely fine. Killmonger is a villain that I wish got more screen time. I wish that he didn't die at the end of the film. I think that right there would have been a great addition, and movies coming along in the future. Everybody does a really good job in this film. I disagree with you. I don't think that it should have been nominated for Best Picture. I will agree with you on that. But the only Oscar nomination that I got to disagree with you on that. I think the score is fantastic for this movie, and I personally, I like this movie. This is top 5 MCU for me, but we can always have different opinions on everything. I don't see this doesn't even make my honorable mentions list.
All right, I'm gonna bring this back to your list sucks. Guys, come on. Can we stop using the basic bitch opinion that this movie's overrated? Because it's good. This is a good movie. All right. Look, Cody can say it's The Lion King. It's not original. Nothing in the MCU is original. Nothing in the MCU is original. Black Panther is the most original movie in the MCU. Not necessarily from story, but because of Wakanda alone. The location of Wakanda alone is more original than anything in any other MCU movie. The score by Ludwig Göransson is the best score in the MCU. Especially the Wakanda theme. The ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, ba-dum,
Stop.
ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum,
Shut up.
ba-dum.
Shut up.
No. You let Thomas Scully go on way longer than me, and
But
so
I'm not going to get you to a score. Shut your mouth.
fine. Well, then I'm not gonna talk about the score. But I think Black Panther for Best Picture is fair, especially when you look at a lot of the other movies that are like it, especially in the top 10 of the year. They made their top 8. Black Panther was in the top 8. It was in my top 10 of the year also. So if Best Picture is to symbolize the top 10, I think should I think Coogler was snubbed for director. I don't think that Paweł Pawlikowski for Cold War or even Adam McKay for Vice, and I like Vice, should have been nominated over Ryan Coogler for Black Panther. So I think this movie is great, and
No, it wasn't even the best comic book movie of that year.
it was better than Infinity War, way better than Infinity War.
Thomas, can you believe this?
You're a jackass.
Can you believe this novice? No, I'm
Mute him.
bro.
He's too loud.
Bro.
Mute yourself. Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's go. Doug, you're next.
My number 1 is Chronicle. I think this movie is way too overrated. It's way too hyped up. I think it came at the end of found footage, and I have a real disdain for found footage. I know people love it, but I really hate it. To take a comic book movie, or what's supposed to be the origin of a hero and a villain, and turn it into this found footage movie, and not do it well, I don't think it was done well. I think when people talk about this movie, they rave about this movie, and I just walked out of the film really disappointed. And I just don't think it's as good as people give it credit for.
I don't believe Chronicle is really rated at this point in time. It was when it came out. It was very revered. Then a certain somebody got in some hot water, and it ain't talked about it in high regard anymore. Chronicle's fine in the movie. I don't understand why you hate it so much. It seems a little odd. Were you promised something in the trailer that just didn't get paid off?
I didn't promise anything. I really just hate the found footage thing.
That's fine.
I hate the found footage thing.
I hate found footage too, but there are some movies that do it super well. I think this is one of them. I also think the other one is like Cloverfield. I think those movies are ones that found footage actually works in the concept that it's built in. So I have to disagree with you. And number 1 seems astronomically, like that seems just high. What is everybody else's viewpoint on Chronicle? I know Brian had it, I think.
For me, Chronicle is an interesting movie. I was kind of fascinated by it when I first watched it. It was really interesting. I thought the performances were really good in that film. I honestly don't understand why it's like I can understand why some people think it's overrated, but sure as hell not number 1 overrated. So I mean, it's a little crazy. It's crazy. This is what I get. This is what I get for living with other people. It's fine.
Jay, you go ahead real quick if you got anything.
So
just mute your mic, Scully, if you're not talking.
My only issue with what Doug has said is I don't think that this movie should be as highly rated on his list as it is for overrated films. I think that this movie is a tad bit overrated. With everybody that said everything about it when it came out, but I also don't think that this movie came in at the tail end of found footage films, because if that was the case, we wouldn't still have a whole. I'm trying not to cuss as much as I normally do. We still wouldn't. Okay, fair enough. We wouldn't have as many fucking found footage films that are still coming out in this day and age as we do. That's really what it comes down to. But I can't hate you for your choice. I just don't think that it should be that high up. Scully's closing statement should be
Okay. I'll be real with you, Doug. I'm actually really shocked you don't like this movie. It's Carrie with superheroes for guys, kind of. And I think that's like I really like Chronicle. I think it does a lot of cool things with found footage, especially where he like uses the camera to like levitate and push it around and play with it. Like I really like the story. I really like the idea of finding your wolf pack and then having it all kind of crumble around you. And like and Andrew Detmar, I think is maybe one of my favorite sort of like tragic characters through comic book movies and superhero movies. We don't really talk about his arc ever, but it's really sad, and I really like this movie. So I'm a little disheartened that you don't like it. I mean, it's got a lot of horror elements, so I thought you'd like this. So I'm actually a little shocked.
That's right. I am the one man wolf pack.
Okay. So let's wrap it up, Jay. Tell us. Yo.
Yeah.
That
Yo,
might
you
be our
know,
new guy.
Scully, you know that all that hate you just received via the chat for Black Panther being your number one pick?
Yeah.
I just took my Tylenol because I'm about to put all that hate on my back, dog. And this literally comes not because I dislike the movie in general. I dislike the reaction from fans in general, especially fans in every single one of the leagues that we have and that we all participate in. My number one pick is The Dark Knight. I don't give a shit what anybody has to say. This movie, not that great. Aaron Eckhart, not that great of a fucking Two-Face. This movie is carried by one person and one person alone, and it's Heath Ledger. And you cannot put. Yeah, go ahead because you know you're gonna have to.
I had to make sure that wasn't Ryan Permison down there. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Like I said, whole bunch of hot takes, but it's not the fact that I hate this movie. I actually thoroughly enjoy this movie. This is the best of Nolan's trilogy. I also think that it can still be the most overrated comic book movie of all time. And that really doesn't come from the fact that I hate this movie. It comes from more along the lines of the fact that fans of this movie fillet the fuck out of it. There are very few things in this movie that actually work, and one of them is the Joker. So yeah, go ahead. Lay it on me.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised it's the popular thing to say that you hate The Dark Knight because it's been regarded as something so great. I am
the anti-Woodburn.
Yeah, sure. I like this movie a lot. I consider, yes, it can be overrated in people's eyes because it's so talked about and loved and all that stuff, but it's still a fantastic comic book movie. Like maybe the people that tout it so high annoys you, but again, the movie itself still stands. I think the opening scene of this movie is literally incredible. It's one of the best scenes in any movie ever. I'm supposed to kill the bus driver in that movie, and then the bus pulls out. And then, gosh, the scene at that scene in the interrogation room when he smashes his head on the thing and goes, shouldn't do that. Everything gets so fuzzy up here. And then he mixes up the things, mixes up the addresses, and sends them on his way. I absolutely love it. I think this character, my most overrated thing that I can't stand when people say, this is not a good Batman film. This is a good Joker film. Like, I hate that argument. Shut up. They play together.
I'm nowhere to occupy.
Yeah, so that's fantastic too.
That's a great interpretation. But for me, The Dark Knight is hands down the greatest comic book film of all time. And look, yes, you can talk about how Heath Ledger's Joker overshadows everybody. Yes, it was the highlight of that film. However, we cannot discount the other performances, mainly Aaron Eckhart. I thought Aaron Eckhart gave a phenomenal performance as Harvey Dent. I think he is the most underrated part of that film. The fact that he is able to transition his character from this wanting to do good, always wanting justice, right? A DA Harvey Dent, and then having that all ripped away from him by the sadistic Joker, and then falling down this dark path in the last hour of the film. That is so raw, so deep, and it's phenomenal. Christian Bale's performance is actually really good in this film as well. I think his performance in Batman Begins is a little bit better, but he still has a great performance in this film. Maggie Gyllenhaal is also really good, probably because she's a lot better than Katie Holmes, but that's neither here nor there. But other things like the editing in this film is phenomenal. The score, Hans Zimmer's score, is so damn good. The scene in the beginning, the haunting ticking of the clock that he uses in that opening bank scene is phenomenal. And the ending of The Dark Knight is probably one of the only endings to a film to really make me cry. I actually teared up at the end watching this the first couple times.
Yeah.
Okay.
The score is dope. I really like this movie. Yeah. If you don't like it, I don't know who hurt you, but I'm sorry. Yeah.
The family.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's a very valid statement.
Again, okay, so thank you all for being on. Again, it did run longer, but we had 5 people. We had 10 people watching the entire time at max, so I appreciate everybody for coming out and watching the show. Again, if you haven't given it a like, please give it a like. I guess that helps at some sort, but it makes it seem like you like the episode and we can do more of these. Basically, now I'm going to give everybody their combined list. So, at number 10, we have The Dark Knight. At number 9, we have Chronicle. At number 8, we have X-Men First Class. At number 7, we have Unbreakable. Cool. At number 6, we have Iron Man. Ugh. At number 5, we have Batman Begins. Yikes. Okay. At number 4, we have Black Panther.
No, I don't agree with that.
Number 3, we have Spider-Man 2002. X-Men 2000 at number 2. And Batman Returns as your number 1 overall movie. The overall list, I'm going to give this overall list a C. I think there's positives. I think there's negatives, but that's what happens when you combine 5 people. The winner, the winner of this list sucks this week is going to be Kaleb Koho. Caleb's going to win this year. List sucks this week. He is going to get a B minus. I disagree with some of his takes, but some of his takes I'm pretty spot on with. Number 2 would be Brian. Brian gets a C. Number 3 is Douglas Castle. You're going to get a C minus. I don't believe it's the greatest list. I don't think it's by far the worst. Thomas, he's a C minus. He's a C minus. But thank you for putting the other grade, but add a plus to it. Thomas Scully gets a D plus because Thomas picked a lot of movies that are not overrated. He picked a lot of movies, but I don't think a lot of them were overrated, at least in my eyes. And guess who's the opinion is mine, so it matters what I think. And last place is with a fat F is Jay Burns. Jay Burns
spelled with a PH.
No. He had by far the worst list. It's Hot Take McGee over there. I'm going to put him and Ryan on an island together and let them fight about what it means. So that was your list sucks. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciated you all coming in and watching the show. This was a fun episode. 5 people's a little too much. We probably won't do this again, but in the words of Batman 89, let's get nuts. That's what I felt like. So future episodes coming up. I think me and Caleb are a lot of like in influx, but next week's going to be actually a unique topic. I'm letting Koho run it because I have a manager commitment that I have to do that night. It's going to be DC comic books. I'm going to let Koho talk about it for a second. Like, what are you looking for so people know?
So, what we are doing is we're deviating from the script of movies. We're going into the world of comic books. These are comic book. I will take arcs or trade paperbacks or Vertigo lines, imprints. Because when's the next time we're going to do this? I have no clue. So if you want to put Watchmen on there for Vertigo or V for Vendetta, go nuts. The Killing Joke. It's all the actual books. Dark Knight Returns. Whatever you're thinking of putting on your list, send them to me this time because I'll be hosting next week. And I will tell you if your list sucks.
I am completely off next week, so do not send me a list. If you do, I will forward them to Caleb, but he is in charge of the full show. The next week, we're kind of in flux. Not everything's going to stay exactly where it is. We're going to have me and Caleb are going to have a meeting after this to kind of discuss where we're going to go because we have a lot of big plans coming up. And you guys submitted a lot of great topics. And if you haven't commented on the post that I put on Multiplex, please go comment because I'm going to use that as a great guide of where we're going to go. Next is Disney soundtracks is what I'm hoping for. We're doing animated. Please send me your overall topics, your top 10. By the way, pisses me off really bad. I need 1 through 10. if you send me a 10 through 1, I don't want you on the list because it's hard for us to input in the schedule. Koho does that all for me. It's easier when it's 1 through 10 because that's how the show runs. I mean, I
Please
know it
and
runs
thank
the
you.
opposite, but we know where to rank it and be able to schedule.
Please and
Next
thank you.
is going to be Christian Bale's movie. This is all dependent on if you send list. This can be moved off the schedule completely if we do not get enough people interested in being in a Christian Bale movie. But if you are, Caleb would really like you because this is the topic he picked as well. Then after that, do we have anything? Okay. The next one is going to be Oscars Got It Wrong lead performances. We're going to combine male and female, and we're going to try it again. Hopefully we get enough traction that people like to be on the list. Again, everything's subject to change, and I am allowed to pick whoever I want. So if you don't like me, don't be on my show or don't comment on my stuff. But again, send me your list if you want to be on my show. Have a great night. Peace.
Your list sucks.